Okay, Slacky, y'all, we're kind of running behind. We're about to get started and just kind of catch up. Watch him. Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Hahawa. Nothing an hour. Award. Zayawam. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light this day. Thanks, so be it.
Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Hahawa. Nothing an hour. Rayak. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us sweet savor. Thank you, so be it.
Amanjim will point out Yerushalayim.
Stand and face Jerusalem.
Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Barakatay Hara Bashim Yawshai.
Hahawa. Nothing an hour. Hashabbat. Bashalom. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the Sabbath and peace. Thank you, so be it.
Psalms 121. Anasha.
Ayanyamya.
Hahoya. Ma'aya. Yabu'a. Isaiah. Yabu'a. Ma. Yahweh. Sha'aisha. Shemayah. Wa'aratiza. La'a. Yonathan. Lamawat. Regalia. Yala'a. Nawam. Sheshemoyah. Hana. Yala'a. Nawam. Wala'a. Yeshon. Sheshemamah. Yashuala. Yahweh. Shemoyah. Yahweh. Tazalia. Ayah. Yanyamya. Yad. Hashemash. Yala'a. Hakaya. Bayawam. Wala'a. Halabana. Walayala. Yahweh. Yashemoyah. Makor. Right. Yashimor. Napasha. Yahweh. Yashimor. Hawalakia. Wabu'aya. Ma'aitha. Wa'ai. Awalam. Aman.
Psalms 121 in English. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He would not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasha'Allah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Aman.
Israelite Credo. Shema Yashuala. Yahweh. Elohayim. Yahweh. Echad. Shema Yashuala. Yahweh. Elohayim. Yahweh. Echad. Shema Yashuala. Yahweh. Elohayim. Yahweh. Echad.
Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord.
Okay. Lord's Prayer. Abanawa. Shabbat Shemayah. Kodash. Hayah. Shemkaf. Yahweh. Malakwat. Taba'ah. Ratazaka. Hayah. Aisha. Baratiza. Kawa. Hayah. Bashemaya. Natalanawa. Lachom. Kol. Yawam. Watsalachanel. Chawathinel. Katsalachanel. Chawathinel. Wala'a. Tabianel. Banasai 1. Abo. Hawashayno. Mayan. Right. Kaya. Laka. Amalakwa. Wa'ala. Wa'atapara. I will love you.
Aman. Matthew chapter 6 verse 9. After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
10 Commandments. La'ayahaya. Laka. Alahaya. Achaya. Ayo. Panya. I'm sorry.
Thou shalt have no other powers before me.
La'a.
Ta'ina.
Laka.
Pasal.
Wala'a. Ta'ibadam.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image nor serve them.
Number 3. La'ah.
La'ah.
Thalaq. Sham. Yahweh.
Bashawah. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain.
Number 4. Zakar.
Hayawam.
Hashabat.
Laquadashwa. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Number 5. Kabad.
Abaka.
Ya'amaka.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Number 6. La'ah.
Taratazah. Thou shalt not kill, murder.
Number 7. La'ah.
Thana'ah. Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Number 8. La'ah.
Thaganah. Thou shalt not steal.
Number 9. La'ah.
Tha'inah.
Shakur.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Number 10. La'ah.
Thakamad. Call.
Asherah.
Laraika. Thou shalt not covet anything which is thy neighbor's. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law.
Israel, Yeshabim.
Everybody seated?
Okay. Okay. We're keeping it back off. We're going to continue on the topic we've been going over, dealing with before the Maccabees, in the book of Maccabees, 2 Maccabees 2, but leading into the literal fall and the desecration of the temple. We're dealing with Menelaus and his corrupt policies, and how Menelaus ended up killing his own brother, Onias III, because there was an accusation, not an accusation, a real fact, that he was stealing gold items from the temple and pawning them off so he can make the large payments he had to pay to keep in power to Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, before we continue on that story, I have to take a quick pivot and go into Daniel's 11, because we have to go into the 6th Syrian war, because the 6th Syrian war ties in at the same time with this collapse, because we have to set up why all of a sudden out of nowhere Antiochus was peaceable with the Jews. He was corrupt, but he was peaceable, and he was using the Jews as just an opportunity to get more money and get more substance for his kingdom. But how did it switch with Antiochus using us and making deals and backing out on those deals and using us to get more money? How did it escalate into full-blown, we're going to go to the temple and desecrate it and kill massive amounts of people? There is a succession of events that leads up to Antiochus making that extreme move. Now, we know the Most High was in control of it, but we want to kind of set the circumstances leading up to that scenario. So first, before we go into the continuation of 2 Maccabees 4, let's go to Daniel's chapter 11, and we're gonna start at verse 25, but we're not going to read it yet. I want to kind of give a background leading up to the 6th Syrian war historically. Then we'll jump into Daniel's 11, because like we had mentioned earlier, when you're reading Daniel's 11, from the beginning, from verse like 4 or 5 down, all the way to until I would say verse 39, this deals with the Syrian wars that was in the region between the king of the south, which is the Ptolemies, and the king of the north, which is the Seleucid Empire. And it gives you that, what it does, it ties in history. Daniel's 11 ties in historically the information from the fall of the Persian Empire until the onset of the Roman Empire. Okay? Because after Antiochus gets in power, the Romans are already starting to gain steam and get influence. But after Antiochus Epiphanes, the Greek Empire starts to fall in the Seleucid area, and also the Ptolemy Empire is already on the decline. And these Greek empires are already falling. while the Roman Empire is rising. And all throughout history, you don't just have an empire fall and an empire rise. It is a gradual ascension for one side and a gradual decline for the other. What you gonna say?
And when you see how the Romans came in, initially they were brought in as assistant soldiers to keep peace in the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Okay.
And from there, they worked their way up from just being the police force or the soldiers assisting the Greek Empire to actually taking over the government of the Ptolemaic Empire.
And what's funny is, as the North and the South, the king of the North and South are fighting throughout all these years, the Romans are just gaining their power. They're wiping out a lot of Israelite lands going westward. They took out I want to say the Franks, but not necessarily the Franks. But they took over lands in France and in Spain. And as far as the middle, from the middle part of Britain down.
With the Gauls?
Well, it was the Gauls in France. But and the Picts in Britain. They got as far as southern Britain, and they worked their way down to North Africa. They took out Carthage, and then they started working their way to Egypt. Okay, so they went west, south, and then east. And before you know it, the Egyptian Empire, the king in the south is collapsing. The king in the north is collapsing also. Their nations are weakening. The Romans are strengthening. They're gathering their power.
And they say that historically that the Greeks were too effeminate, and they were given to luxury. It was all about luxury, about enjoying your lifestyle, eating alternative foods and dishes, and they got too comfortable.
Like every kingdom does before they fall.
Mm-hmm.
When we were about to fall, we got effeminate. All the way when we started having our jewelry and gold, and we started having and being into our furniture, we got effeminate dealing with our vineyards. We didn't want to fight no more. We didn't want to stay on top of ourselves. We lost our kingdom. Same thing happened to the Babylonians. Same thing happened to the Persian and Medes. This is the cycle of kingdoms that rise and fall. They're hungry. They rise. They get comfortable. They fall. The Romans did the same thing eventually. Mm-hmm. They got caught into their servants and their comforts and their luxuries. They didn't want to work. Things fall. Okay? So let's just get a little background into the Sixth Syrian War. The Sixth Syrian War, there are literally two wars that happened. The first war happened in 170 BC. The second war happened in approximately 168 BC. And just for the record, the abomination of desolation happened around a year later, 167 BC. So the abomination of desolation happened shortly after the end of the Second Syrian War. Okay? Now, just a little background information on this Second Syrian War, the things that led up to it. It said, I'm going to read it. It said the Seleucids, which is the northern kingdom, okay, had little desire to entangle themselves in a new war with the Ptolemies. After losing the Roman Seleucid War. Now, this is going all the way back to Antiochus III. Antiochus the Great. Remember when he was about to sit back here and finish off the king of the south earlier? He ran into a buzzsaw with the Romans, and the Romans put him on a tariff. Not tariffs, but he had to sit back here. He lost the war with Rome, and he was the reason why, when you're reading Daniel 11 and 20, there was a raiser of the taxes. Okay? There was a raiser of the taxes, having to pay the taxes back to Rome for their loss by Antiochus III. Okay? So they weren't trying to fight after Antiochus III lost to the Romans because they were so busy making payments to the Romans. And this is why the entire region had to pay elevated taxes to pay for the Roman loss.
And who was it that was taken as a hostage to make sure that those taxes were paid?
Antiochus III. Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus IV Epiphanes was the first individual that had to go and stay in Rome while Antiochus III went to go fight these Parthians, lost and got killed. Then Seleucid IV came in. He's the one who raised the taxes up to pay for these taxes, to pay the Romans to get his brother out of from being a hostage. So all this is happening right before Antiochus III dies. Then you have Seleucus IV, which was the brother of Antiochus IV Epiphanes, and that's how it was going on. Now, we went through this. We have to explain the king in the south and what was happening with them leading up to this transition also. The Seleucids had little desire to entangle themselves in a new war with the Ptolemies. After losing the Roman Seleucid War, they were forced to pay a huge indemnity that the Roman Republic imposed on them at the Treaty of Apamea in 188 BC. They already controlled Syria or Syria, that's the northern kingdom, the northern empire, the king of the north, and were busy with fending off the rising Parthian Empire in the east. Because that was when Antiochus III died. He tried to raid a Parthian temple and got killed, got ambushed. But he went to go raid that temple to pay back the Romans. So it says, internal dissent and rebellion weakened the Ptolemies over time. So when Antiochus III had his run, lost to Rome, you had Ptolemy IV. You had Seleucus IV. He had a reign for only like 7-8 years. Then Antiochus Epiphanes had his reign. While they were still in power, the king of the north, the Ptolemies were losing power year by year. If you remember, before Antiochus III was going to come down to Egypt and wipe them out, the Egyptians were already collapsing on each other. The Egyptian soldiers were waging war against the Ptolemy Empire. The Ptolemies had weak leadership, and they weren't able to sustain themselves and get leverage back over the northern kingdom. They lost Syria also.
And they were trying to intermarry their children to try to strengthen the ties between the two, but that didn't work.
Well, that was the ploy that Antiochus III did. Antiochus III sent his daughter Cleopatra to marry a man named Ptolemy V Epiphanes. So this is where we're at. Ptolemy V Epiphanes and his wife Cleopatra, which was the king of the north's daughter. Okay? Now all this ties back into Daniel's 11 from like verse 14 all the way to verse 19. You guys can go back later on, earlier in the classes, when you read about the fourth or fifth Syrian war. Explains it all. So, let's get back on the point, just explaining the prelude to the sixth war, because there was a period of time that we haven't discussed, because we were focusing on the Jews and their internal collapses. Like I mentioned a few weeks ago, Daniel gives you the breakdown from the Greek perspective and the Greek Empire perspective. Maccabees lets you know what was happening from the Hebrew perspective. Okay, when you tie them both in, you can kind of blend in the concepts and see the whole picture. So, internal dissent and rebellions weakened the Ptolemies over time. In particular, the power of the monarchy waned, and the influence of aristocrats of high standing in Alexandria grew, as did the power of the Egyptian nativist movements. If y'all remember, you had a hierarchy of the Greeks were the number one. The funny thing is the Jews were second in line, and the Egyptians were third in their own country. And the Egyptians had beef with being a third-class citizen in their own land. So there was activists and movements going in to get the Egyptians more legitimacy in their own city. And this is what the Ptolemies were facing and fighting against. Like Shamshawan mentions a lot, that one way to placate the Egyptians was the embracing of more of the Egyptian culture, more of the Egyptian belief system to placate the people, but that wasn't enough. They wanted power, they wanted a position, they wanted a voice at the table, so to speak.
And the Greeks actually were the minority in their own civilization, in their own kingdom, just like much like the Caucasian is. Truly, when you look at he's a minority in America. When you look at all the black and brown bodies in America, he's actually the minority, or other nations. Yep. Same thing happening in the Ptolemaic Empire. He was the minority, and he didn't have leverage over the people like he wanted. So he started placating the Egyptian priest and allowing the Egyptian priest to have leverage over the society to keep the Egyptians happy.
Yep, and they had to hire out and formally train large groups of Egyptians. And that ended up backfiring on them in that fifth Syrian war, because now you had trained troops in your own country starting many wars in your city. They were obviously so low on the totem pole they weren't even being trained to be soldiers.
And another way,
Until the winding down till we got to the Fifth Syrian War, where they had to go and get a larger pool of men. But once you train a group of soldiers, once the war is over, now you got a bunch of guys who are threats. Now they're threats because they're trained, they have weapons, they can storm your castle now.
and it was so bad as far as the Greeks losing the grip on power and Ptolemy that they started merging the Greek and Egyptian language together. They were speaking a Greco-Egyptian language, and they actually forgot how to speak their own pure Greek language. Crazy. So they were already losing the grip in multiple ways.
So, as you can see, they're on the downward spiral, the Ptolemaic Empire. Okay, so now it says Ptolemy V seemed to possibly be intending to raise funds to finance an attempt to reclaim Syria, but died unexpectedly in 180 BC. So Ptolemy V died, and the problem is he died with 3 younger children, under 10. Okay? Then it says, in the paranoid atmosphere of the area, many assumed he had been poisoned, perhaps by courtiers who wished to keep the peace and avoid levies and taxes to finance the war, or because they preferred a young king and regent who would be easier to manipulate. A regent is just an advisor to the young king who's not old enough to make big boy decisions and life-altering decisions. You have advisors that are around you that help the young person make a decision. So what they were doing is if they kill Ptolemy V, then they have a greater chance. The political realm, the Egyptians and the people that was running him, they can influence the young man's decisions a lot better. Okay, that was the goal in killing him, if he was killed, which he probably was. So, Cleopatra, which was the daughter of Antiochus III, she was the first regent. She was a regent after her husband Ptolemy V died. Favored the peace faction at court, whether because she agreed a war made no sense or because of lingering loyalties to the Seleucid royal family she descended from. So Cleopatra, this is Cleopatra the First. This is what they tell you. When you see Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra in the movies, everybody says, Cleopatra was black. No, she wasn't. Cleopatra was white girls, all of them. This is Cleopatra the First. This isn't the one that was messing with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. That's later. But this one, she ends up dying soon. She was Cleopatra the First, and she died 4 years after her husband died in approximately 176 BC. It says, but her eldest son, Ptolemy VI, Philometor, was still only 10 years old. So he was a young child when the mother and the father died, necessitating a continued regency. So what they're saying is, once the mom passed, you had to bring some more people in there to help this child learn what leadership was. So, 2 men, one named Eualaeus, and the other one is Leonaeus. One was a eunuch, and one was a slave, which was an Egyptian. Became the 2 regents of the young king of Egypt.
What's their names again?
Eualaeus, Eulaeus, and Lenaeus. Became the 2 regents of the young king of Egypt, likely as a compromise between the relevant Egyptian factions, who could not bear to see a rival on the throne, who might have been the backing and lineage to claim it themselves. So they want to sit back here, and the Egyptians politically worked up enough clout to get 2 Egyptians to help guide this young man in running his empire. Okay? And this is all going to tie in when we get to Daniel's 11. So, under the regents, the young Ptolemy VI was married to his sister, Cleopatra II, and she was declared a co-ruler. So this is what the Greeks did. They married their sisters. This is what they did. This is what they do out there in Greece. So they married the sister. She was a young child also. Couldn't have been, she probably was younger than 10. So they married these two together. They were the new kings under two regions. So just keep that in mind as we continue forward in the reading in Daniel chapter 11. Let's go through one.
Kariah first.
Is he here?
Yeah, right.
Right. I'm tripping. I'm looking around. I missed you. I miss you. It's hilarious. You came in so stealthy.
I mean, I know. Slide. Kariah, Shah Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashala.
Kariah, Shah Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashala. I'm much. Yahweh Hashem Yahshabakatam.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshabakatam.
All right. Okay, so let's we're gonna take our time. Let's get to. Yep.
Before we move stuff further, these regions, just so we can get a picture of what they were, they would be like Game of Thrones, where they had like the hand of the king.
Yeah, Littlefinger, like Littlefinger, or Littlefinger was like a dirtbag. I'm talking about the other eunuch. The other eunuch was like he was on the bald head.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Sir, if I may."
The fairy.
Yeah, but what was his name? I forgot his name. I remember like he had like a wizard like in his closet that he kept punishing at. I'm like, these dudes are ruthless. But yes, Littlefinger and that bald head guy, those are regions.
Thank you for that.
Does it help?
Now it does.
Yes, hilarious. Because Littlefinger, they'll sit back and always have their hands behind their back like. And they're just dropping bars on you. I just giving you what you need. But what we're going to read is these two regions are not good regions. And they make mistakes and they lead the young Ptolemy the 6th Philometor down a bad path. And it ends up backfiring, having these two Egyptian regions that don't really have skills. They have this eunuch and this slave don't have the diplomatic precision for the job. And it's going to get exposed as we get into Daniel chapter 11. So let's do this. Before we jump to 25, let's read verse 24.
God.
So we have context for who we're talking about.
God. Daniel chapter 11 and verse 24. He shall enter peaceably.
Matter of fact, give me verse 21, then jump to verse 24.
God. Daniel chapter 11 and verse 21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
Salaki, let's go to verse 20.
Okay, verse 20.
Yes.
God. It says, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom.
So, this person who stands up in his father's estate, which was Antiochus III, was the raiser of taxes. And that was Seleucid IV. And you'll read about him in 2 Maccabees chapter 3. So Seleucid IV was the raiser of taxes in the entire kingdom. This is when life started getting really hard for the Jews and all the other surrounding countries. Because everybody's finances had to get taken down a couple notches to pay for these war indemnities. Okay, read on.
God says, but within few days he shall be destroyed.
Within a few years. He died within 7 years. Read on.
Neither in anger nor in battle.
He wasn't in a war, and it wasn't any crazy fit of rage. Now, what they say historically is that what was that guy's name? They say Heliodorus was the one who killed Seleucid IV. Other reports say that Antiochus Epiphanes killed his brother once he got out of prison. Once Seleucid IV allowed Antiochus to get out of prison, word in the street is he killed him. Or Heliodorus, that guy that got his tail whipped by the angels in the temple, he killed him. So it's kind of murky as to who pulled the trigger. But he died in the coup, but it wasn't through any war or any particular act of violence where he got savagely murdered. Let's get to verse 21.
Verse 21. And in his estate
So after he got out of power, Seleucus IV, read on,
shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
Listen, he wasn't chosen, he wasn't given the nod to take the leadership. The funny thing is, before Seleucus IV died, Seleucus IV's son was supposed to take the throne. What Antiochus Epiphanes did is, okay, he said, hey, Seleucus IV, my brother's son, he's the true king, but I'm the older brother, I'm his uncle, I'm going to sit back and guide him to leadership, and I'll be his regent until the young lad gets of age. And then within a year, the young lad mysteriously what? Died. There you go. He dies. So it says Antiochus Epiphanes was not given the honor of the kingdom. He wasn't chosen to lead. He took the position through treachery. Okay, it goes into that. 1 second. Antiochus Epiphanes ruled the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death. He was a son of Antiochus III the Great and a brother of Seleucus IV, Philopator. He was originally named Mithridates, but renamed himself Antiochus, either upon his ascension or after the death of his elder brother, Antiochus. Notable events during his reign include the near conquest of Egypt, which was haunted by the threat of Roman intervention, which we'll go into, and the beginning of the Jewish revolt of the Maccabees. Antiochus took power after the death of Seleucus IV, Philopator. He had been hostage in Rome following the peace of Apamea in 188 BC, but had recently been exchanged for the son and rightful heir of Seleucus IV and the later Demetrius I Soter. Antiochus took advantage of this situation and proclaimed himself co-regent with another of Seleucus' son, the infant Antiochus, whose murder he orchestrated a few years later. So once again, there was two brothers that had the throne over him, and he managed to sit back here and kill one within a year or two, and the other one was still in prison in Rome, so he was out the picture.
Did they do a swap for him and his nephew?
Yeah, I know. He did a swap when the brother died, because he was the next in line age-wise. He was just supposed to be a placeholder until Demetrius, the one that got sent out, was of age. But he just kept him dried out in Rome and killed the younger one. Now he's the man. So he was obviously a treacherous guy. He was a vile person from the beginning. That's what verse 21 is saying. So let's read verse 21 again from the top.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 21.
Real quick, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The information you're reading from, is that from a Bible Atlas?
Man, I was digging. I'll shoot you the link.
Okay.
There was a couple different links I was kind of like tapping into, but it wasn't just Wikipedia, because Wikipedia doesn't give you enough. So I'm going into some. I think it was a Britannica history book on one of them, and another one was I had the link.
Please send me the link. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So with all this going on, he's a vile person. Let's get verse 21.
And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
He wasn't chosen to be the leader. He took the position over, killed one of his brothers, and allowed the other brother that was the rightful heir to be a hostage in Rome until he paid the debts off. Game of Thrones. Read on.
But he shall come in peaceably.
He came in peaceably. He came in with the spirit of let me work on putting the kingdom together the right way. Let's show love and respect to everybody. He came with the spirit of respect and honor, but that really wasn't how he wrote. Continue.
But he came in peaceably and obtained the kingdom by flattery.
Now, this flatteries, you look up the definition of flatteries Flatteries is operating treacherously. That's what flatteries is. It wasn't like saying, much due to you, much due to you, peace be unto you. He said he got into position of power by treacheries. So we're going to go into, once again, we did this a few weeks ago, the definition of treachery. You got it?
Got it.
We'll read
Treachery. 1828 Webster's Dictionary. Violation of allegiance or of faith and confidence.
So he established his empire by saying he's going to make a deal with one person in position of power and then going and backstabbing that guy and going to the highest bidder with somebody else. This is how he did with all the different kingdoms in the region. And because he was treacherous, Onias III was already in position to be the high priest. He operated treacherously with Israel because Jason said, hey, I can give you a better deal, give you more money if you make me the high priest. Mm-hmm. And Antiochus Epiphanes was treacherous enough to say, okay, forget Onias III, I'll go with the highest bidder with Jason. And then Jason said, I'll make you more money if you give me the license to get a gym, and I'll shoot you some gym revenue. Cool, no problem. Then he was treacherous again because the other brother, the other Levite priest, Menelaus, came to him and said the same thing and offered him the same deal, but this doubled the financing coming back to him. So Antiochus was treacherous again and went against the handshake deal he had with Jason to go with Menelaus. This is how he was treacherous. Or this is how he established the kingdom through flatteries. And that's important because when you read flatteries, you're thinking, what does it mean by flatteries? Just saying kind words? No, he's establishing truces and he's truce breaking. He's covenant breaking. And that's what made him, now it was another aspect of his character and demeanor. He wasn't a man of his word. So.
And being a middleman for extracting taxes became a new big business.
And that happened a few generations ago with the Tobias.
Mm-hmm. They created that business opportunity. It became like a business model. If I can get in and become the raiser of taxes, and then I can pitch mine off the top,
I can come out.
I can come out. Yep.
And the Tobias, which were Ammonites by nation, were the ones who brought that to the Jews.
Yep.
Why? Because the high priest didn't want to do his job. Remember that?
Yep.
That was a few weeks ago also. All this stuff ties in. So, now you got the Jews wanting to keep outbidding one another. There's sharks in the water.
Yep.
With chum in front of them. And you got this corrupt guy Antiochus who's just dangling the carrot in front of him saying, give me the best deal, I give you the power. So Antiochus is bringing out the worst of the question is this, did Antiochus bring out the worst of our people, or that was already in us? Antiochus is a corrupt guy, but did we have to eat the cheese and take the corruption? Couldn't Jason just say, you know what, man? The Most High chose Onias. Let me fade back. No. We fell right for the cheese. So just as corrupt as Antiochus was, we were corrupt because we wanted to sit back here and come up and make our money.
And Jason was the older brother.
Yep. But that Seleucid the Fourth didn't allow to be the high priest because the Seleucid the Fourth knew there was corruption in Jason. That's why he lost his position in the first place.
Well,
he was the man that wasn't chosen first.
But it didn't sit well that the younger brother. Of course
not.
Hey, it's had this leverage and power.
He got mad. Was mad that he was chosen, that his brother was chosen over him. So he did whatever he could by hook or by crook to get that position back. And Antiochus III was the man who would sit back and facilitate that. So you see the corruption on both sides. Daniel talks about how corrupt Antiochus is. Maccabees explains how we were corrupt. The point is both parties were corrupt, and this thing was destined to go bad for us. So, where are we at? So the kingdom was established through treachery, through covenant breaking, through truce breaking, through deal breaking. Now let's jump to verse 24.
Verse 24. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province.
He came in, coming off like he cared about the needs of the people. He keeps saying he comes off peaceably. But, Scripture says a person that comes off peaceably but has 7 abominations in his heart. Okay? This is literally Antiochus Epiphanes. He's looking for ways to scheme and get extra money. He doesn't care about the well-being of the city or who's the right man or leader for the city. He's about getting his deals and his side business endeavors. Read on.
And he shall do that which his fathers have not done.
And this is the whole thing. The fathers leading up to Antiochus Epiphanes, including his brother, they all were honorable and they treated the Jews with respect. And the funny thing is, out of all the Seleucid line fathers, they looked at our piety as a what? As an advantage. When you sit back and read Antiochus III in the Josephus, Antiochus was like, listen, I need trustworthy people to run my kingdom. I have a lot of square miles to cover. He had to cover all the way from Cold Syria, which is Tyre and Zidon, all the way up to Antiochia, which is Turkey, all the way east to Parthia. He needed people. He sat back and laid a mandate out to pull Jews from Babylon and send them up to Turkey, because he needed trustworthy men to govern his locations up in Turkey. So that lets you know Turkey is Galatia, Turkey is Cappadocia, Turkey is all those Cyrene, Turkey is in all those locations where Paul ended up teaching, right? So Antiochus Epiphanes is bringing all these Israelites and spreading them out, because they're like, okay, I'm going to use the fact that you're honorable and you love the Most High to my advantage in my kingdom. And this is the same thing that Ptolemy Philadelphus did.
No different than what we see what's his name from Babylonian kingdom did with Daniel and the three wise servants.
Yeah.
Or the three holy children. Nebuchadnezzar. You want to use those trustworthy, honorable individuals
to maintain your kingdom
as cabinet members, as advisors.
And advisors. And this is where it says Antiochus did different than his other fathers. Because the other fathers used our piety to their advantage. And you know what's the crazy thing? You know what the scary thing is? Those guys used our piety to their advantage, so we were pious. When the first king that comes in is not pious, we change and we become corrupt. The question is, were we pious because we want to be pious, or were we pious to gain advantage?
That's the question.
That's a real question. How? Ding, 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 ding. That's the theme. So the Seleucid kings from Ptolemy, from Seleucid Nicator I to his son's son, all these guys use this for our honor. And also the Ptolemies did the same thing. Antiochus was the only guy who didn't honor the position the same way and didn't use our piety as an advantage to the kingdom. He says, I'm more comfortable with dirtbags. Let me use, and I want to use dirtbags in my kingdom, and we fell right into line with it.
You know, it's almost simultaneous how, as the high priest was going to war, and they didn't honor their position.
Yeah.
Neither did the Greeks or the Seleucid Empire honor our position.
So my point is, who was in control of the whole thing? The Most High was in control of it. But the sad thing is, it was almost like whatever president was in power, it was going to be how it was going to be.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Well, if I was thirsty, power hungry, then they was like, man, then we're going to give the best deal to the hungriest guy.
God. On the left-hand side.
Corrupt as he may be.
And that's the part that, listen, all the Levites had to do was say, with all due respect, Antiochus Onias III is the man. We're going to sit back here and stick to our deal. He's like this. Are you sure? I've got money.
Yeah.
I have position for you.
You're getting 6%. I can give you 12.
And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that deal.
Since you're twisting my arm.
This is the issue. This is that moral dilemma. And we had no morals. It took one generation for us to flip. That's it. Just one. So, read verse 24 again.
Daniel chapter 11, verse 24. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province.
The most productive places in the entire province. Like I said, this province went from Tyre and Zidon and Philistia, all the way east of the Parthian Empire. That's a lot of real estate. Babylon, Persian Mede Empire, all of it was his. Read on.
And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers.
His generations didn't treat the Jews this way. His fathers and his grandfathers didn't run their kingdom this way, through flatteries and corruption. Read on.
He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches.
He's scattering the people. Because if you're sitting back here and dangling whoever can lead in each of these provinces based upon the bigger bribe, who always suffers? The people. The people are being spoiled. The people are the prey now. The people are the prey because how is this money going to get raised? In each of these provinces, the taxes have already heightened so that the Romans can get paid for these war indemnities. So how is the war indemnities going to get paid and 10% goes to the big guy? I don't know if you ever heard about in a political realm how Biden was getting kickbacks, 10%, for all the side deals going on in Ukraine and all these different countries. Like, for instance, Biden would have his son Hunter be the head of the board on some Ukrainian contracts in Lviv. Whatever industry was going on in Lviv, Ukraine, Hunter Biden was one of the head guys there. How did you get to be a head guy, a decision maker in Ukraine, in Lviv, and a business? That's just like Nancy Pelosi, her son, was on the head of the board for the microchip company in Taiwan. How does this happen? How does this happen? Because they can't do it. So they have their son do it, and they get the kickbacks for it.
It's called nepotism.
Well, it's nepotism is I can't have the money trail come back to me.
No.
So it's going to go to you. You're going to get paid, and that money's going to go into the what? Family trust. The family trust is in control of the big guy.
We do it on a low level when we put water bills in our baby's names.
That's hilarious. But that's taking away. That's not getting anything.
Yeah, but because our name is already corrupt. You know what I'm saying? Our name got debt to it. So, it's like, baby, you 2 years old, but you got a water bill.
Bro, you got collections. You got collections at 2 years old. It didn't even last that long. I was 2. How did I get collections when I was 2?
Yeah, you got bad credit. You just got credit.
But this is the whole thing. This is the situation that a lot of these senators, these lifetime senators, they get on the ground base floor on these deals, and their sons get the kickbacks, and the money goes back to the parents in the first place. It just gets laundered back.
Yep.
That's how the system goes.
And then the child just knows to pay his percentage.
But the problem is this: the rich get richer, and the poor get what? Oh. So all these corporations are getting fat, and they're splitting these large sums of money at the top, and nobody else at the bottom gets taken care of. In Ukraine, Ukrainians are like Edomite niggas. They're broke. They have nothing to show for their life. They're all struggling. These guys lost 1 million people. They barely have enough money to function. They said Ukraine is one of the top places for like sex trafficking. All type of corruption comes in Ukraine. They just utilize the place for them to get their pockets greased. Anyway, what am I trying to say? This is what happens when there's corruption at the top. The people suffer. The riches get divvied out a different way. The people get spoiled, and they are now the prey. They're the victims. So this is what's happening with Antiochus Epiphanes' policies. And this is how he was different from their fathers. Their fathers ran the kingdom a lot smoother. There was less corruption. And they valued a trustworthy man because he knew that their kingdom would be taken care of if they brought these Jews that had these laws that kept them in line. This is how the nations looked at us. If these guys live by this moral code, then I can sit back here and put them over these jobs and responsibilities and not have to worry about them because they have to follow their God. Once again, our power was only predicated, our survival was predicated on how pious we were scripturally and spiritually.
That was our leverage.
That was our leverage back in the day. That was our leverage as when we were leaders of nations, and that was our leverage when we were not on top. We are subordinates. We were subordinates. Our power was just in our piety. Vassals. We were vassals. But we thought we were more than that. We thought we could get on top and play the game that the nations play, or the game that their half brothers, the Tobias, were playing. This is why Nehemiah said, "Keep these damn Ammonites and Tobias out of the city." Back in the day of Nehemiah, there was a reason Nehemiah was saying this. Keep these guys out of here. Anyway, let's continue in verse 24.
Right. It says, "He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time."
So his devices, how he did his business, was spread upon all of his strategic military strongholds for a period of time. Now let's read verse 25. I went there. We've already gone there, but we got to make sure we know who he's talking about in verse 25. Read on.
Verse 25. "And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south."
Antiochus Epiphanes now stirs his power and his courage against the king of the south. Read on.
"With a great army, and the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand."
Listen, just historically, the king of the south started it. Historically, the king of the south, we're going to read, they wanted cold Syria back, which is that region of Tyre and Zidon through Philistia, Israel, and Samaria, and Syria. They wanted that area back. So what they did is they initiated the gathering of troops and getting them ready. The funny thing is they made a misstep because they were still gathering troops. And Antiochus, the king of the north, he prepared and gathered his troops faster. So they said he gathered courage. He gathered courage because he was the one that responded to the king of the south's instigation. He reacted with courage and brought men and got them prepared faster than the king of the south had their men prepared, which was once again an error by those regions. Those regions didn't prepare their men early enough. They showed their card, and they weren't even ready to fight. If you're going to sit back here and talk about war, your men got to be ready. Why are you talking about war without your men ready? That's a mistake. So we're going to read a little bit about the war, and then we'll go back into the story because the last line goes into the next verse with more clarity. Yes, sir.
When you were saying, you said that the king of the south, they were the first one instigating. That's talking about the Ptolemies, right?
Yes.
They were the ones who was instigating that land in Syria.
Yep. Okay. But then what happened was they weren't ready. So Antiochus meets them in the desert, defeats them, and ends up taking a city called Pelusium. We're going to that in a second. So, okay. The causes of the new conflict are obscure. Relations declined between the two powers, with both sending emissaries to Rome. So both of them were going to Rome, complaining about the other. They were both complaining. Things were leading up to the war. So obviously Rome was obviously already showing themselves to be the upcoming superpower. Because why are they going to Rome complaining about affairs of the Greeks? It was just showing you Rome's power at the time. So it says,
just like America.
okay,
America is known as a peacekeeping nation. We always go to different countries, foreign countries, to supposedly bring peace. Supposedly be the peacekeepers. Or UN agreement.
Really, they're the final boss out.
Yeah,
they're the final boss out.
But Rome was doing the same thing. We got it from Rome.
I know. So it says the relations declined between the two powers, with both sending emissaries to Rome, then bogged down in the Third Macedonian War. So Rome at the time was fighting the Greeks in Macedonia and Greece. Don't forget, the Edomite Empire, the Greek Empire, was split up four ways. It was Greece, then it was Thrace and Bithynia, Then it was the king of the south and the king of the north. So the Romans were still in the midst of fighting the Greeks, who were fighting for their territory and their sovereignty, while the king of the south and king of the north were sending letters and communicating, hoping that they'd get assistance against the other. So if the Romans were fighting the Macedonians in war, they weren't going to get any help. So once they realized either side's not getting any help, they're going to have to settle this between fighting amongst each other. So it says in 170 BC, so now we're getting down like 10 years, 10, 18 years. It says Ptolemy's younger sibling, Ptolemy the eighth. Wait. Just want to make sure we're clear. Okay. Here it goes. In 170 BC, Ptolemy's younger sibling, because I told you he had multiple brothers and sisters. Ptolemy's younger sibling, Ptolemy the eighth Sycon, was declared a co-ruler as well in order to bolster the unity of Egypt. The three siblings ranged from 10 to 16 years of age. While the causes are still not entirely clear, Ptolemaic regents Eulaeus and Linnaeus seem to have instigated the formal declaration of war on Seleucid ruler Antiochus Epiphanes. So, like I said, though, that servant and that slave, that eunuch and slave, Littlefinger, sat back here and convinced Ptolemy the sixth, Philometor, to let's go to war. Okay? They convinced him to go to war and declare war against Antiochus Epiphanes. Then it says, this was possibly out of a desire to find a unifying issue to rally the state around, possibly due to political gains in the pro-war faction, and likely influenced by a vast misunderstanding of how easy it would be to win such a war. See, these guys weren't militarily trained. They were servants and eunuchs. They didn't know war, and they're sitting back here and going to war without the proper knowledge of how to navigate through this. It was a vast mistake. Big mistake. Then it says, Antiochus IV had gotten word of Egyptian preparations for war and was in Tyre. In July and August of 170 BC, preparing his forces, and reached the important strategic town of Pelusium in November of 170 BC. Gonna sit back here and show Pelusium. I can. Okay. Yeah, here's Pelusium. When you sit back here and look on the map, Pelusium, we look down in Egypt, you'll see Alexandria to the left, Pelusium to the right. Pelusium was a strategic shipping town. Obviously, a lot of money was being made in shipping on the eastern side of Egypt. Then you had Alexandria, which is the big city on the other side. So Pelusium was a strategic location that was important for the Egyptians to sustain. So they says now Antiochus gets to Pelusium in November of 170 BC. Just as the Ptolemaic army moved out of Pelusium to begin its invasion of cold Syria, the Seleucids defeat the Ptolemaic army in the Sinai desert. Perhaps due to Egyptian surprise at the Seleucid army being ready to fight immediately, Ptolemaic losses mounted as they retreated to Pelusium. But Pelusium quickly fell with little loss of life and a surrender of the Ptolemaic army. Pelusium was the gateway to the rest of Egypt. With it under control, Seleucid supply lines were secure, and Egypt was in grave danger. Antiochus took Naucratis and camped near Alexandria, potentially threatening a siege. So it was getting to the point where he was ready to take over the main city, Alexandria, after he took over Pelusium. Pelusium was important because he can always get shipments and supplies from Tyre and Zidon in the places he needed to continue the war. Now that he has Pelusium. So now... You're good. Talk to me.
Trying to come lately, but that's still the Carthaginian Empire, right? Which is the first technically.
No.
That's way over.
The Tyre and Zidon, at this particular point, they are kin and connected to the Carthaginians. Because the Carthaginians and Philistines are two different people.
No. I'm not saying. I'm able to say that.
Well, just know this much. Alexander, back in the day, took over Tyre and changed Tyre and Zidon to Phoenicia.
Okay.
He took over Phoenicia, changed the name, left. Tyre and Zidon lost their power at that particular point, but they were already establishing another country in Carthage. Okay? And Carthage became a superpower and was able to finance the indemnities that Alexander put on Tyre and Zidon. So the superpower by that time, they left Tyre and Zidon and went to Carthage. That explanation goes into Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel 28 talks about the fall of Carthage, but it's really Tyre and Zidon. Okay? But we'll go into that another time. Yes, sir?
Tyre and Zidon, Alexander the Great. Is that the city that he built the bridge?
Yes.
Out of the rubble?
Yes. He built the bridge. He built the bridge to Tyre and Zidon, took them out, but they were already establishing Carthage, and Carthage became the superpower. And Ezekiel 28 talks about how the Most High was going to destroy Carthage. Okay? Or he said Tyre and Zidon. But Tyre and Zidon was Carthage. And Rome came out and wiped it out and put salt on the ground to where it couldn't grow anything. Yes. But that was all prophecy in Ezekiel 28. Anyway. So far in the first war of the sixth Syrian war, Antiochus IV Epiphanes brought his soldiers down. They took them out in the Sinai desert. They got to Pelusium. They controlled the city easily. They're on their way to Alexandria to wipe out the Egyptian empire, which is the king of the south. This is what's about to happen. Okay? Now, the next paragraph that explains this, it says the Egyptians suffered internal unrest over the poor progress of the war. Now, before we do that, let's stick to the scriptures. Read verse 25 again from the top.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 25. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south.
So Antiochus stirs his power, his courage, and his forces to fight Ptolemy the sixth Philometor, which is a young king, and all these little brothers and sisters that combine one guy like Voltron. Read on.
Okay. It says, and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand.
The king of the south will not stand. Read on.
For they shall forecast devices against him.
Listen, they is talking about king of the south's regents. The king of the south's regents shall forecast devices against him. When it says against him, meaning their plans, their forecasts of what they think they should do, backfire. The forecast of Leonidas and Eulis was wrong. And they were saying Ptolemy 6, we do this and we do this, and we will sit back and get cold Syria. Their forecast went against Ptolemy and weakened his army. He weakened him because he lost many men in the war. Read verse 26.
Verse 26. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat.
Stop. The people that feed off the portion of the king of the south's meat were his what? Regents. The ones that ate off his table were the ones that led him to destruction because of bad advice. Read it again, verse 26.
Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him.
Because this war weakened Ptolemy Philometor even the more. They were already on the decline, and they keep taking L's. They keep taking military losses and losing their men, and they're on the verge of losing Alexandria. Read on.
God. It says, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain.
That's what we just read in the history. A lot of men fell in that war in Sinai to the point where they got to Pelusium and there was no more war. They had little resistance getting to Pelusium because the bulk of them, the warriors, were killed out in Sinai. Read on.
God. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief.
Now, when it says both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, this comes down at the negotiating table when they're establishing peace amongst one another. Because before Antiochus Epiphanes gets over to Alexandria, there has to be peace talks. And this is what we're going to read here in the reading. Okay? What we're reading is that they both, in the middle of their meetings, both of their hands were crossed behind their back. You know, like, I promise I'm not going to do it. But of course, I had to have my fingers crossed. That's what it means. They're doing mischief, right?
Mischief man, huh?
Yeah, so I'm going to read this. The Egyptians suffered internal unrest over the poor progress of the war. Euleus and Linnaeus were overthrown and replaced by two regions. We just read about these two guys that ate off his plate, led him to destruction. If this isn't prophecy, I don't know what the hell is that. He's explaining everything, and Daniel he's still property of the Babylonian government. Matter of fact, he's property of the newly formed Persian Empire. It just turned over. They were in power 200 plus years. And by the time we get into the Greeks, he gave the whole Greek Empire. The whole breakdown of the Greek Empire in Daniel's 11. And it's spot on.
Yeah.
He's like, pow, 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 pow. Anyway. Amazing, huh? How is the Bible not true? These are the things, like, a person will say, I don't think the Bible is true. You didn't read Daniel's 11, my G. This alone will break you. So, Euleus and Linnaeus were overthrown and replaced by two new regions, Commanus and Cineas. Comanus and Cineas, Cineas. Envoys were sent to negotiate a peace treaty. Okay? Hey, we got to slow this thing down. It says Antiochus took Ptolemy VI Philometor. Don't forget, remember we read earlier that Antiochus III, the Great, sent his daughter Cleopatra to marry Ptolemy V. So Ptolemy V and Cleopatra have children. So Ptolemy VI is the nephew of who? Ptolemy VI is the nephew of Antiochus Epiphanes.
Right.
Their blood.
Yep.
Right? So what Antiochus is doing, in the negotiation, Antiochus said, okay, I'm going to take my nephew, Ptolemy VI, who was his nephew, under his guardianship, perhaps with the intent of making Egypt a client state or a vassal state subordinate to the Seleucid power. So what they're saying is part of the peace treaty is, I'm going to take your king and I'm going to sit back here and he's going to be under my tutelage.
Yeah, but he's an enemy though.
That's a power play.
That's a power play.
And that's the point. So the Egyptians and the king of the south are like, this is a bad deal for us. You're going to sit back and just keep using us, taking this little boy who's 11 years old and manipulating him.
Really as a hostage.
He's a hostage, wink, wink, but I'm gonna put him under my wing. This is how Antiochus does. He'll sit back and take his blood, he'll wipe him out like nothing. Okay? So, it says, archaeological records show that even Thebes in the southern part of Egypt were occupied by a foreign army, surely the Seleucid, in October of 169. So we're just saying how much influence Antiochus had. This is, however, this occupation was unacceptable to the people of Alexandria, who responded by proclaiming Ptolemy Psychon as the sole king, his other brother. So in Pelusium, Antiochus Epiphanes says, my nephew, I'm gonna take my nephew, Ptolemy VI. You run this. The Alexandrians said, "Nah, we're gonna take Sychon, and he's gonna rule Alexandria." So now the city is split in half. There's no unity. There's no connection. You have brothers fighting brothers, and this way pleases Antiochus because he has a hand in the affairs of the king of the south. Makes sense? Just like Antiochus III sent his daughter to Ptolemy V to get his hands on the political scene in the city. Same play. Okay. Then it says Antiochus besieged Alexandria. I guess after the response that Alexandria did with putting Ptolemy Sychon as a king, he didn't like that. He went to go to war, but was unable to cut communications to the city. So in late autumn of 169, he withdrew his army, leaving Ptolemy VI as a rival king in Memphis. Antiochus probably withdrew to deal with problems in his home in Phoenicia. So he didn't completely take over Egypt. Alexandria was able to absorb that wave. Ptolemy Sychon was the king in Alexandria, and in Memphis it was Ptolemy VI Philometor, and they were young teenage kids ruling the empire with different men guiding them, different regions guiding them.
No,
So
he had two issues also because it says in late autumn, so
Mhm.
it's getting close to winter. You know, when we fight
Time.
in wintertime.
exactly. So he's sitting back here. He withdrew. He's dealing with these issues. He's trying to sit back and maintain his. Don't forget, his empire is vast. The king of the north. He has a lot of ground to cover. And there's even times in Maccabees that he's got to go to these different countries and provinces to squash rebellions all throughout his empire. That's damn near what he has to do as king, is just go from country to country squashing insurrections.
Wow.
That's what you read in 2nd Maccabees. So, let's go back. I need you to read now. Let's get you in.
فهو الرخاء شهر شبتات بعد الشهر بايش الله
Fa'awam Maka, Shar Shabbatah, Badashar, Bayashar, Amajim, Rock, Yahweh Bashim Yashabbatah.
يهوى باشم يا شبتات.
Okay. Like I said, we're going through it. I know it's a lot of history and people probably doze it off, but listen, all this stuff matters and it goes into the why Antiochus had to turn up on us. The number one why is the Most High was vexed at us and was pissed at us, had enough of us. But there were some things that are about to happen that bring out the worst of Antiochus. So, let's get now verse 26 in Daniel's real quick.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 26. Yeah, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him.
So, those two regions, that was a eunuch and a slave, gave him bad advice and severely weakened him. Don't forget, these decisions led him to have to be a vassal to his uncle. So this was catastrophic. He was the man, now his kingdom gets split in half because of these knuckleheads' decisions. Antiochus wasn't even planning an attack until those two regions set it up and initiated it. Read on.
And his army shall overflow,
Mm-hmm.
and many shall fall down slain.
So Ptolemy VI lost a lot of men in this debacle. Read on.
And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief.
Both of these kings' hearts, the king of the south and the king of the north, they weren't straight on their motivations. Antiochus Epiphanes had no desire to take care of his nephew. He wanted power and control, but he said it was based upon his looking after his nephew. Read on, and we know he's a king of flatteries and treacherous words. Read on.
And they shall speak lies at one table.
They're going to speak lies at the table. Listen, what we're going to read later on is that Ptolemy Sychon and his brother Ptolemy VI reunite. So it wasn't like they weren't at odds with one another. They sat back and did what they could to get Alexandria salvaged, to buy them time. It's no different than you read about the in 2014 when Russia came in here and came into Ukraine and seized control of Crimea and some portions of eastern Ukraine. They sat back and signed these accords, or this peace duty. I mean, this peace paperwork in 2014, but they did it only to buy themselves more time. They signed the paperwork in 2014 to build their army up so they can fight them by 2022. And they've said it. What do you want? German leaders, British rulers, or British leaders, they say, yeah, they signed that just to sit back and buy time so we can fuel them with weapons and train their men up and gather an army up to fight Russia. That's what happened. So this is what happens a lot of times in negotiations, even right now. What they're telling Russia is, listen, I agree with having a ceasefire. We're just going to bring NATO troops in there as peacekeepers. Russia's like, what? Are you serious? We're going to sit back. We're going to let you bring NATO troops in here?
Yeah, when the whole idea is to keep Ukraine out of NATO.
That's my point. And you're going to sit back here and bring NATO troops in here, fortify the entire area to attack Russia? Like, hell no, but I'm taking that deal. And they're like, I don't know why the Russians don't take this deal. Are you serious?
That's like swapping Freddy Krueger for Jason Voorhees.
I'm like, come on, man. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But this is how they do these crazy deals. They're one-sided deals. Or they'll say, listen, we'll do this. We'll do peace. But we're not going to... they said it's a 5-year or 5 to 10-year... like weapons ban. It was a really lame like explanation of peace. And everybody knows we're only going to do this deal to buy Ukraine more time to get more people to fight you guys in 10 to 15 years. That's why Russia's like, we're not stopping fighting. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to take more land. Forget y'all. This don't make no sense. We're going to sit back and get all... Listen, they're going to probably get all the way to damn Kiev, the capital city. Why stop? Why stop and make yourself vulnerable for more attacks?
Or buy enemy more time.
Or buy your enemy more time to just get more. Because the thing is this, the whole world needs around 3 to 5 years to get military stockpiles up to fight Russia.
Yeah, the French already committed a certain budget for more weapons. The Germans said they're going to commit more weapons and ammunition.
But you know, in order to build more weapons and ammunition, you have to build factories. The problem is, all of Europe, they don't have factories. This is why they can't keep it with Russia, because Russia has factories that they have in place to keep establishing munitions and weapons. America barely has it. Listen, America's on back order for all their weapons. 2 years back. Listen, all these arms packages that they were buying, that Ukraine's been buying, they're a year or two backlog. And they don't have enough weapons to keep going. So they're saying, yeah, we just need around 2 years.
Yeah, but even then, we don't even have it here in America. So
that's the point.
Australia has a contract to build American weapons now.
A lot of countries do. And that's what everybody understands. If we're going to beat Russia, we have to reindustrialize. So now we got to bring weapons factories back in the United States again. We got to bring them in Texas. We got to bring them in all these heartland countries and get people to make weapons and bullets and stuff so we can fight. Because they didn't think Russia had the capacity to keep making weapons. They were saying in the middle of the war in like 2023, Russia's already out of their Iskander missiles. They're out of their missiles, and then they will put it out in the New York Post or the Wall Street Journal, and a day or two later, Russia sends like 60 bombs, bro, and just destroys them out. And it happens consistently. Oh, they're out of bombs. They're low on bombs, and every single time they look up, and the bombs keep dropping out because they have the capacity to keep churning out material. Then, if they need it, they can always go to China and get some stuff. And if they need it, they can go to North Korea. If they need it. Yeah. But the funny thing is, most of the time, they don't need it. They have their own factories that are churning out enough every month to stay on top of the war. They have enough now.
Yeah.
But Europe doesn't have anything. All these countries have been deindustrialized. Now they have to reindustrialize to even compete.
Which is hard to do.
Or it's going to be thermonuclear destruction. Because that's really what's going to happen. Because do they really have the time to industrialize?
No.
They don't. Listen, they're trying to go green in Germany and get off of the gas and get off the coal. That's how you industrialize. Or nuclear energy, coal, or gas. And they said, oh, that's dirty energy. We want to go clean. No fossil fuels. Then you can't win a war without fossil fuels. How you going to power the trucks and the tanks?
Right.
You can't do it.
You don't try to get a charger for your electric.
You don't get a Tesla battle tank out. Get out of here, all right?
You gotta charge it up.
Yeah.
That's what hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Wait. Or we gotta go get some more batteries.
Yeah.
Our batteries are out. That's insanity.
You're pushing up the mountain.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So they're going to try, but it's not going to work. They're going to have to go more drastic. It's going to go from 0 to 100. This is why the bombs can come anytime. Literally. Because once Europe is backed into the corner, what are they going to do?
They got no choice.
There's one or two things they can do.
Or try to buy time with Poland. Let Poland go to war with Russia.
And because they're the next biggest army. But they're gonna get worn out too. But there's only two things Europe can do. Europe can sit back here and try to go all out, because France is the first fake tough guys. The Frenchies are going out there first. They're gonna get their ass whipped.
They can't even.
Nobody respects
they can't even stand
the
Africa.
Frenchies
They can't even stand Africa
on the ground.
Yeah.
Listen, I know Ibrahim kicked him out.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, America's gonna come and take it.
Well, America's already sending.
They're already sending killers. Listen, Ibrahim, I forgot his last name.
Traore.
They're already trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And they're already throwing out in the media that he's hoarding the gold and exploiting the people. It's a matter of time he gets killed, unfortunately. You can't sit back here and protect your people and protect the weapons and protect the gold. It don't work, man. You're going to die, unfortunately. Listen, if Gaddafi couldn't make it, you think he's going to make it?
Patrice Lumumba couldn't make it?
Listen, if Bashar al-Assad, the Assads in Syria ran Syria for at least 80 years, and they get wiped out. You think this cat's going to last? It ain't going to happen. Because if they don't kill you now, they're going to strangle you and they squeeze you out until you break.
They just gave his general $41 million to kill him.
That was the first thing I thought about. I said, all they got to do is give the general an offer he can't refuse. You just got to bribe one guy. That's it. And just give them all the weapons that they want.
Yep.
Listen, the Congo was getting wiped out by Sudanese in Toyota trucks. I'm serious. These guys got jeans. You got jorts out. These guys got jeans shorts out. They're jorts. These guys are wearing jorts like Kansas City Chiefs 2024 Super Bowl champ shirts out. They lost, but they put the shirts that Southern Africa got. They got Kansas City Chiefs championship shirts out and jorts out and beat up Datsun trucks out. And they're whipping the huge Congo out. They said the people in the Congo are getting wiped out from the east, and they don't have enough supplies to get weapons and ammunition and soldiers to the Far East because Congo's so big.
Yep.
They're getting wiped out. So who's funding these guys in these Datsuns? You saw they're Datsun trucks out. I swear to you, they're smaller than S10s out, and they're going to war on trucks that are smaller than S10s out.
With 50 cows on the back.
Yeah, they're just raking it. They're just mopping people up. Anyway, it was a great story with their brother in Burkina Faso, but it only a matter of time, man. It ain't the nation's. It's not the world's time to thrive out.
And he's had 17
assassination attempts. Yes.
Trump had 2.
Listen, 17 that?
Yeah.
Listen, who saw Hitler, man? Somebody gonna sit back here and put the poison on his ice cream, man. Somebody's gonna get him, man. They gonna put the rat poison on his ice cream, man. It's a matter of time, man. On his banana split act.
Shame.
No sir. You don't never put no almonds on your banana split. Then why is there almonds on my banana split, brother? Exactly. The new guy did it. Who hired this new guy? That brother. My I'm gonna cut you. I'm gonna cut you. Great scene. If you watched it, it was a great scene. The dude immediately pulled his switchblade out. I'm gonna kill you for saying it was me. Anyway, for those who know, they know. It was good stuff. Let's get back to Daniel 11, verse 27, man.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 27. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table.
So the lies at the table of negotiation was they're going to agree to the terms of the surrender, and there's not going to be any positioning for power. The lie was that Ptolemy the Sixth Philometor was going to sit back here and accept being a vassal under Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, and not try to reunite with his brother in Alexandria and be these co-regents and run the empire. Okay? And the lie on Antiochus' side was that the intention is not to come back here and take over Alexandria. Okay? Let's continue.
But it shall not prosper. For yet the end shall be at the time appointed.
So he says the end is going to be at a time appointed. The Most High is going to sit back here and finish this off sooner than later. So where we're at this time is in around 169 BC. That's the end of the first war. There's going to be a second war soon after this, probably a year later. Okay? What I'm trying to figure out is, that was verse 27, right? Now, let's get verse 28.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches.
So this is talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. He's going to go back to his land, rich, with more authority, having access to a seaport, and a large chunk of Egypt is his. Like half of it is his. So Antiochus took the victory. It's 169 BC. He's on top of the world. Read on.
And his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
So now, he says his heart, his outlook is going to be fixated on the people who have the holy covenant. Meaning he's back home. Now there's going to be business that draws him into the people of the holy covenant. Read on.
And he shall do exploits.
Okay.
And return to his own land.
So concerning the business and affairs of his own people, he's going to commit exploits. Exploits means to utilize for one's own end, to advance through exploitation. This is how Antiochus has operated this entire time. Exploiting others, taking advantage of people, using people's poverty to his advantage.
Double-tongued politics.
Double-tongued policies. Doing whatever he can to get the finances he needs to come up.
Yep. He's
going to continue this policy, and this one's going to be directed towards the people of the Holy Covenant. Okay? So we're going to hold off now on Daniel's. We're going to finish off in a little bit. There's only 2 more verses that deal with this 6th Syrian war. But we got to go. There's a brief non-war time in Egypt. So now we got to pick it back up to 2nd Maccabees. So let's get 2nd Maccabees, chapter 4, and verse 34. We're going to read to verse 50. Don't forget, we're going to read a little bit, but just be conscious. We're going into this 2nd Maccabees 4 so we can read about Antiochus Epiphanes' exploits towards our people. That's why we're going here now. 2nd Maccabees 4, verse 34.
2nd Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 34. Wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Anias into his hands.
Don't forget, Andronicus was Antiochus Epiphanes' number 2. His number 2 official that dealt with his business on a domestic level or dealt with business in these other smaller provinces. So what's happening is Menelaus got caught, this is the high priest of Israel, got caught red-handed stealing property, stealing gold with the intention of selling it to paying off Antiochus Epiphanes the debts he promised him. So he's looting the temple to pay Antiochus. And what's happening is Onias III, which was the previous high priest before him, ended up doing what? Catching him, calling him out, and then eventually he was going to rat him out and put charges on him. So Onias III was going to put charges on Menelaus. So now Menelaus is sitting here talking to Andronicus and saying, listen, I'm going to give you some bread, but I need you to off Onias III, the high priest, the former high priest. Two high priests, his own brother.
Right.
Kill Onias III so this information don't get to the public and I get indicted. This is like Law and Order.
This is hush money.
This is Law and Order. This is all kind of. This is Nino Brown. So this is everything. This is a movie. So let's continue.
Taking Andronicus apart, prayed him to get Onias into his hand, who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Onias in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths. And though he were suspected by him.
So Onias didn't trust Andronicus, but Andronicus gave him an oath. He wanted to talk to him, and there was nothing else there. He lies and he lies and he lies, and Onias ends up following him. Read on.
Yet persuaded he him to come forth out of the sanctuary, whom forthwith he shut up without regard of justice.
So to shut him out or shut him up means he killed him. He coerced the older high priest to come out and talk and killed him in the streets to finish off the bribe that Menelaus paid off. It was a hit. Menelaus paid Andronicus off to do a hit on him.
Yeah.
Okay? It's crazy. Read on.
For the which cause not only the Jews, but many also of other nations took great indignation.
The Jews knew he was a good man, and other nations knew he was a good man, and held protest against how he was treated. Read on.
And were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man.
So the people around in the city were complaining about how Onias got treated. And this was not in Jerusalem. This was out in another city in Israel. It was called Daphne. In Daphne, the sanctuary at Daphne was in present-day Turkey. But keep going.
And when the king was come again from the places about Cilicia, the Jews that were in the city, and certain of the Greeks that abhorred the fact also, complained because Onias was slain without cause.
So everybody's complaining. Antiochus Epiphanes is hearing the commotion. He gives them what they want. He gives them a murder. They're going to kill Andronicus for the murder of Onias. But it never gets back to who hired Andronicus in the first place. Why did this happen? That was never talked about.
Neither will you replace Onias III at a time where everybody's selling out.
God, that's my point. So listen, the fix is in. I'll just kill him because you guys saw him do it. He's the fall guy. I'm going to kill him. But I'm not going to sit back and chastise Menelaus. That's what he could have did. That's what he should have did.
Or you should have tortured him and find out where the plot came from.
Yeah. That's light work. That was his number one guy. Listen, Andronicus was very close to Antiochus Epiphanes. He knew. He had to have known. But all Antiochus Epiphanes did was kill the guy who got caught. That's an exploit. That's one of the exploits he does. He doesn't get to the bottom of the corruption. He just hits the guy who got caught. He sat back here and put Lee Harvey Oswald in jail. Knowing damn well it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald who shot this magical bullet at from a library. Was it a library? Was it yeah, that's what I'm saying. The depository.
Yeah, bank depository.
It was. I think it was a library. Something.
Library, yeah.
It was a library, like the third floor. He's the fall guy at, and then they have Jack Ruby kill him. So the story ends.
Yeah.
It's almost like they have Andronicus get killed just to kill the story, just to appease the rage of the people, but not get to the bottom of what's going on. So let's continue.
Verse 37. Therefore Antiochus was heartily sorry, and moved to pity, and wept.
And there might have been some alligator tears in there. Read on. Some devil's tears out.
Yeah.
Read on.
Because of the sober and modest behavior of him that was dead.
The funny thing is this. He could respect the fact that he was sober-minded. He was a modest and good man. But that wasn't good enough to keep him at the position of leadership. You had to put Jason over him, knowing he was a better man. You knew he was a good man. Why didn't you keep him at the high priest? Your brother had him at the high priest. Because Antiochus was a treacherous man and didn't value honor either. There you go. So he's crying for the people, but he didn't really give a damn mind. Read on.
And being kindled with anger, forthwith he took away Andronicus his purple, and rent off his clothes.
So they took Andronicus' position of authority. Read on.
And leading him through the whole city.
They led him through the whole city like Game of Thrones. Shame, Shame. Shame. They're slinging poop at him, and they're cursing at him. They're throwing lettuce at him, and tomatoes out. And they're attacking him and saying you're nothing. This is what they did. They stripped him of his clothes and walked him down. Exactly, This is the mob. They gave the mob what they wanted. Read on.
Onto that very place where he had committed impiety against Onias. There slew he the cursed murderer. Thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment as he had deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Now in many sacrileges.
Let's look up sacrilege real quick. Because there was many sacrileges that's about to happen. Listen, after Menelaus dodges the bullet with Andronicus, there's way more sacrilegious things that are done in Jerusalem after Menelaus gets out of the frying pan. What's crazy is you would think you dodge that bullet, maybe you stop messing with the holy items. Maybe you stop stealing from the holy place.
It goes back.
He's like, no, I am doubling down. I'm spending this money. I'm gonna go to the pawn shop. Listen, I went to the pawn shop in Tyre. I'll go to the pawn shop in Philistia. Maybe I'll go to the pawn shop in Samaria and get double for this. They can put it in the Bozo temple in Samaria. There was a literal mimic temple in Samaria that was close to the temple in Jerusalem. Maybe if I sell it to the temple in Samaria, they give me top dollar.
They'll buy it too.
Because it's part of the holy temple. What you gonna say?
No, but what it shows also is very close to the class we went over years ago about the fall of the Babylonian Empire when they were partying with the temple items.
Yep.
Remember they had the different cups and the different items. They were having a good time.
And they took the holy temple stuff out?
Yeah, they took the whole stuff. They had a party with it, enjoying it and just laughing, having a good time, revering with it.
Having like the ghost blow flutes.
Yeah.
like a 300. Yeah,
they had a 300 goat flute blowing weirdo party with the holy items. Most of the time, you're canceled.
You guys are done. The soldiers are really outside at your gate. They're about to take you out.
Yeah, you need no brown about it.
But this is and to a degree, that's about to happen also. Menelaus doesn't repent for his actions. He keeps doubling down. Did you guys find that sacrilege?
1828 dictionary. Sacrilege. The crime of violating or profaning sacred things.
So once again, he says the sacrileging of taking holy items from the holy place and selling it kept happening. Why did Onias III die in the first place? Because Onias III caught him red-handed committing sacrilege and selling holy items. So what they're saying is Menelaus kept doubling down on selling holy items. Okay, now let that go and let's get back to verse, what verse is it, 40?
39.
39, read that.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 verse 39. Now when many sacrileges had been committed in the city by
Lysimachus.
Reading
earlier, Lysimachus was connected to Menelaus. Now, historically they said it was his brother, but it's very hard to be his brother if Menelaus was the brother of Onias III, Jason. Okay? So, just for the sake of understanding, Lysimachus worked with Menelaus, just like Simon earlier in 1 Maccabees 3 worked under Menelaus. Menelaus is operating smarter now. Listen, instead of Menelaus getting caught with the holy items, what does Menelaus do? Lysimachus, you take the holy items, take them out. Now he's
Set him
creating distance from himself. He's creating what? Plausible what?
Deniability.
He's creating plausible deniability. Lysimachus, you take the holy atoms. So if you get caught, you get caught. It wasn't me.
And it's
That was what he learned from the first fiasco with Onias III. I can't listen. It's not the lesson wasn't I'm not going to steal anymore. I'm not going to be the one caught stealing.
Yeah.
That was the lesson. So if you get thrown in jail, or you get cases on you, you get cases on you. It ain't touching me because I'm acting like I didn't see. So if you get away with it, I'll reward you for the deal. Somebody got to take the risk of sitting down for a few years. It's just like the athletes. Every athlete got to have a goon. Or the Wire too. Listen, you got to have some shooters. How come always the top dogs get these whack sentences out, and the real killers out? They take all the falls out. They take all the fall out. It was Weebay, right? It was Weebay and the other guy out. It was the other guy and the New Orleans girl. Like, who was that at? That guy was even worse at. He's murdering you and throwing you an acid at. Y'all remember that guy? Ah, come on, man.
In the Wire.
In the Wire. Because, Weebay was the first one. He was the grimy dude with gosh, I forgot their names, man. Weebay was the first one. But then later, remember when the new guy got in town? It was Marlo.
Okay.
His goon. He had two goons.
Chris.
It was Chris. Thank you. So it was Chris and Weebay. Remember at the end of the whole show, Chris and Weebay in the same penitentiary.
Yeah.
They just sitting back here looking at each other, sitting down for the rest of their life. That's it. And the funny thing, Weebay's money dried up. Remember his people couldn't. The drug money dried up, so now his woman was on his own. But Chris, he had some more money. He had some money the last time.
Right.
Because old boy got $10 million out of the deal. Anyway, what's the point? The point is somebody got to be the fall guy and sit down for a little bit. Which one of y'all don't mind sitting down? You do the deal. You do that dirt. That's what you got to have. There was a guy named Chris Carter and played football. He went to the rookie symposium and talked to the young guy and said, listen, man, you guys got a lot of money, man. You guys can't get into trouble. You guys got to make sure you stay out of trouble, stay out the clubs. He says, but if you go to the clubs, you got to make sure you guys have a fall guy out.
Man.
And he never spoke again at the rookie symposium.
So you can't.
You cannot be allowed to do this anymore. He never was allowed to speak to the young athletes anymore.
But it was
But he spoke
true.
true. Because that was when Pac-Man Jones was hitting people and beating people up and shooting people.
Classical Burrs.
He's like, you can't do that. Have somebody else carry the heat. You be cool. You got to pull a Diddy on these people.
You can't be like Ja Morant.
Well, I know Diddy.
You can't be Ja Morant.
Yeah.
You can't be Ja Morant or Diddy. Diddy had to sit back and gave old boy the bad deal. What's his name?
Shine.
Who's the president of some small country now, man?
Belize.
Yeah, he's the man now. He's a diplomat.
Okay, he's famous man because he's taking charge and say
He's
nothing.
like-
Because he didn't say nothing,
like-
right? Out of here.
I
He said nothing. This is why he's president. He said nothing.
And
Get out of here.
and you know he's Israeli too now.
Get out of
he?
here.
Yeah,
Oh,
shot.
yeah, man.
Yeah, but
I don't know what's going on out there, bro.
Listen.
He's Israeli now?
Yeah, well, I'll say that he practices more of a Orthodox Judaism.
Yeah.
That must be a little game they're playing.
He did that in prison.
Yeah.
So listen, what was the moral of the story? Somebody had to sit back and take the fall. And Menelaus understands now. I'm going to keep doing this dirt. I'm going to keep sitting back here and desecrating the temple. But I'm going to have my boy, my little, you know what, Lysimachus make the run for me and take the heat. Okay? So this is his thinking, this is his policy, and this is what's happening. So where are we at? 2 Maccabees what?
Chapter 4, verse 39.
Okay?
Now, when many sacrileges had been committed in the city by Lysimachus, with the consent of Menelaus.
Yeah, because Menelaus okayed it because he had to have it done. Read on.
And the bruit thereof was spread abroad. The multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus.
So listen, they're seeing it happen. The people are seeing all these atrocities happen. The holy place items taken. The people are starting to step up in the city, and they're complaining. They're arguing. They're fighting. There's many riots going on in the city, because they see all the holy place items coming out the temple. You know?
Many vessels of gold being already carried away.
And Lysimachus is the one in charge of taking all this stuff out. So the people are seeing gold being dollied out of. they see it. They're seeing like all these bases of water. They're on liberators out. They're on liberators getting taken out on liberators out. And they're seeing they're seeing the candlesticks being taken out out. Like, what's going on here?
Got 2 man straps on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's happening? Right? Well, who's taking this out?
That's like when Saddam Hussein fell. People don't realize he had 76 palaces.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all his palaces got raided by American soldiers first.
Yep.
Oh, he had 24 karat gold knobs. His sink handles were gold.
Yep.
And you had soldiers in there taking off sink handles, putting it in their bags, sending it all back to the United States in their personal bags. Yes, sir.
Was that movie with Ice Cube?
It was George Clooney in there.
Yeah.
It was about that. Yeah.
Yeah. They took chandeliers. They took doorknobs. They stole everything that he had of value, put it in their duffel bags, and shipped it back in their personal baggage. And then they said in one of his lakes, he had 76 palaces, and he had a private lake. And one of the sheds behind the lake, he had a pallet of brand new dollar bills, cash. He had $400 million on a pallet. But nobody knows exactly where that money went.
Nobody knows where it went. Nobody knows.
He got lost now.
In the luggage.
Bro, come on now. That's the point. So let's continue, man. So the people are sitting back here seeing the gold items getting dollied out of the temple items. They're like, what's happening with this item? The people are getting enraged. They're being angry. There's a problem. Let's continue.
But they weren't complaining when they were.
There was a gym.
They were going Greek.
Listen. You know they just left the gym out. Now they're going to see what's going on.
Oh, we're losing our culture.
Yeah, you see that? This is true. That's the truth. They're getting mad because the culture's being lost. But they weren't tripping when they was out here sweating and carving all this oil off their bodies out with these carving mechanisms out.
Yeah, well, they had
they were dancing out.
They had a little belt with the one-string belts out. They had one-string belt. I didn't know the details.
Yeah, those drawstrings and
stuff. They had
drawstring
belts out. Listen to Prince.
And then they're singing YMCA, like, young man, bear. And I say, young man, bear.
They lift the weights out and wrestling out. With the
wrestling out. Yeah, it's not even wrestling out.
They're wrestling with the revolution out in the gym, and then wondering why. Where's the coach?
Wrestling with the revolution out. Oh my god.
This brother was still masculine. Yeah. They weren't just straight twins.
Like all of my purple.
Yeah, they were masculine because they were still military out. Israel was still raw out. They were military, masculine, androgynous men out.
It was okay. That was okay. But when they see the holy items, I've had left.
Wait, we're losing our culture.
That's how the Jew is, right?
Jason, no, my name's not Jason anymore.
Yeah. Now Jason was out. Don't forget, Jason at this time he got kicked out. He's in Ammon.
We're calling each other by Greek names, talking about we're losing our culture.
Yeah. All facts, man. Nothing new, man. Mm-hmm. Listen, we'll break the law, but don't take the holy items from them. Don't take this, but I will send my tail off.
You can't have that menorah.
But don't take away my desire to kill an animal on the Passover. Right? Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I'll be damned if you take that right from me. I have the right to slay this goat. But we're gonna sit back and allow the men's club over here, right?
Yeah.
The men only.
The ghost like, you've been sinning, man. Let me live.
Exactly. No, that's the law. That's the Torah. You can't break that.
I got to die for this.
But I'm hanging out with the men's over there later. That's okay. This is how we roll, right?
You gotta make your mind up, sir.
No, I want my rituals and routines out. Give me let me blow horns out and slay beasts on the Passover. Out.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
That's what I do.
Anyway,
that's the Jew.
So there's an uproar that the holy items are being taken out, not realizing nobody even goes to the temple anymore to sacrifice. By now,
it's not like they care.
They weren't even going to sacrifice.
Yeah, GPS for the
Jason already eradicated that. Remember they said by the time Jason was rolling, people stopped wanting to go do the priest. The Levites didn't even want to go to the temple no more. That was what was talked about in the earlier chapter. It was so bad the Levites didn't want to Levite.
That's what you do, man.
But now the Levites didn't want a Levite, but we're tripping on holy items coming out of the Levite place where the Levites don't want to be no more.
Oh.
The people don't want it. The people don't want to go there, and the Levites don't want to be there. But we're mad that Levitical items are being taken out of the temple.
We're losing our jobs.
But they quit their jobs. They quit their jobs previously.
You ain't got no job.
Yes, Zach.
Question. I got to catch up all your classes. Weren't the Levites the ones that was taught with the discus and all that type of stuff in sports? But that's specifically with the priests?
No, it's just whoever had the money and influence.
Okay.
Whoever had the money and influence could sit back here and wrestle naked. If you had some bread, if you were a prince in high society, you had the honor of going to the bathhouse.
The honor.
The honor of wrestling with men out with that string, with that tennis shoe string out on your waist out, holding your Peter up.
The Diddy string.
Diddy string.
Listen, but they said it was such a heavy movement. The Levites grew tired of doing the work at the temple, so they stopped working. So why are we mad? Nobody's up there. Nobody's really sacrificing nothing. Why are we mad that the holy items are being taken out?
That's part.
You see the hypocrisy? But enough is enough.
Enough.
You know the Jew wants to sit back here, and I've heard this. That's my temple. That's my school that I go to, and they never go.
Right.
That's the set. I'm with this camp. Listen, I'm with this camp. You never come to the camp. What are you talking about? What does that make sense? This brother I keep saying. I got one person in mind, and both these guys know him. This is my camp, but I ain't seen you in a year and a half. How is this your camp? You're never here. This is my camp. This is my camp, and it's counseling people that this is their camp. Let me stop. I'm getting too. All I'm saying. Why are you repping something that you're never around? Why are they angry about something that they don't commit to? That's the only parallel I'm trying to explain. If you're about something, then why aren't they there constantly committing to it?
Good question.
So, we're on verse what? 40, right? Read verse 40 again.
Because just thinking about that. Because when people want to decide to be holy, they want a place to go to look holy when they decide to be holy. Now, if you take that away from them, then there's no opportunity or place that I can look holy when I feel like being holy. So it's like it's convenience. It's out of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
So when I want the temple, it'll be there when I want it.
Yep.
But if you take it away, there's no opportunity for me to look like I'm at least playing the role of being holy.
Yes. Right. Now, this verse 40, reading it again, there is more clarity to this. Read verse 40 again.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 40. Whereupon the common people rising.
Stop. That's the answer right there. The common people couldn't go to those boys' clubs. The common people didn't have access to the gyms.
Only for the elites.
It was only for the elites. There was a heavy classism in Israel. The people with the money, the Tobiats, the priests, they had access to the temple. The common people didn't have access to it. So there was still a sliver of people who actually had a value of serving the Most High and actually cared about serving the Most High. They were the ones who were tripping about the gold being taken out. Not the elite, not the guys pushing the pro-Greek way, not the guys pushing, not the movers and shakers, but the regular people who were still trying to go to the temple and serve. They were the ones who were offended at the gold being taken away. It gives a very clear answer.
It shows how fractionated Israel was.
Oh, no doubt about it. But it's the same way now. You think Shaq is trying to serve the Most High?
Shaq is not trying.
You think Shaq is really trying to study the Bible and commit to the Lord? Or damn Chuck? You think Chuck gives a damn about the Most High?
Nope.
And really want to serve the Most High? Yes, sir?
So it wasn't the people who wanted to come angry when the gold was being taken away. It was the people who didn't want the gold that were angry?
It was the people who, in Jerusalem at that time, you had your haves and your have-nots, right? The people who had money, who had notoriety and respect, and you had the people who didn't have that. The people who had the money and the notoriety and respect, they were focused on trying to live like Greek people. They were trying to go to Greek events, live Greek, buy Greek art.
It was popular.
The movement was being Greek. So the people with the money, they didn't care about the temple items being taken off and sold. the people who had no money, there was still a respect for serving the Most High. There was still a respect for going to the temple. The common people still had a respect for loving the Most High. They were the ones that were complaining. And what it does, it also gives us clarity about why the Most High keeps us common. The Most High keeps us common because He knows if we have too much, it's hard to give a damn about the Most High when you're stunting on the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
It's hard to sit back here and care about the Lord when you have all these options and things. So because He loves us, He keeps us in a common state. Because He understands through all these generations of sin, what happens when we have too much for our own good? We easily lose connection with the Heavenly Father. So these common people still have a love for the Father, and they're the ones that are pissed off that the holy items are being snatched. That makes a lot more clarity. That kind of clears up the hypocrisy that we were talking about. Read verse 40. Because the wicked were still being wicked, and the poor still valued the Most High. Verse 40 again.
One scripture?
Yeah.
Hosea chapter 4, verse 7, I'll read it real quick. Hosea chapter 4, verse 7, it says, as they were increased, so they sinned against me. Therefore will I change their glory into shame.
Yes. That's a perfect verse. Because
Hosea chapter 4, verse 7.
Hosea 4 and 7. What he's saying is, as they were increased, so they sinned against me. And that's the truth. The ones that weren't increasing financially were still tethered and tied to the Heavenly Father. And these were the ones who were angry at what Menelaus was doing through Lysimachus. You had a verse too?
Hosea 4, Proverbs 30 and 8.
Listen, that Hosea was clean. I gotta throw that in there. You said Proverbs what?
38.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 8. Remove far from me vanity and lies.
Read on.
Give me neither poverty nor riches.
Stop. He's saying the extremes. Give me not extreme poverty, nor give me intense riches.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're seeing by the dynamic that the Hebrews are in at this time in history, that when Hebrews gain something or get something, because they're at a certain financial strata, the Most High doesn't matter. Read.
Feed me with food convenient for me.
So David's talking about, let me maintain my sanity and my clarity in Christ. Let me focus on the service of the Lord. Don't let my financial condition take me away from my service to the Father. And then going back to Mashaba Scripture 4 and 7.
Yeah.
Read on.
Lest I be full and deny thee.
Which is the main point. Israel gets full. Israel gets fed. Israel gets comfortable.
Israel waxes fat.
Israel waxes fat.
And kicks.
Israel has what they need. Israel has all the boxes checked. Israel got what they prayed for.
Yeah.
We won. And then we forget the Most High. Because we have a transactional relationship with the Most High.
God.
In what, verse 9?
You said what, sir?
Finish verse 9. There's more to it.
And say, who is the Lord?
Ooh.
That's who we say.
Listen,
the Most High.
Who's the Lord? Is because I'm in control of everything. I'm master and commander.
Yeah.
I don't need the Most High. I'm already successful.
I only need the Most High for my financial benefits or my physical benefits. If I have my physical benefits satiated, who is the Most High? The Most High is an object for convenience for us. He's a fairy. He's a genie in a bottle. We don't look at the Most High as we have to serve Him. We look at Him like He has to serve us.
And give us things that we want.
Give me what I need.
Yeah, it's more in verse 9.
We're ungrateful. Read on.
Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my power in vain.
And that's when we're at a certain level where we're suffering, we're poor, then we hate the Most High. Because the question is, why do you put me in this situation?
Because whether you're on extreme poverty or extreme riches, you're still taking matters into what? Your own hands. And that's where we're off at. If I got to steal, where's your faith? If you have the power to do whatever you want, You're supposed to put yourself in a situation to where you're depending on the Most High. Both sides is about the fighting for control, and when we fight for control, we disconnect ourselves from the Most High. Anyway, yes, sis?
But most of the time, if you have the money and the means, you want to buy your way out of things.
I know.
Make this person disappear. You pay somebody to make these people disappear.
Yep.
Or make this situation disappear.
Yeah.
You don't pray about it. You don't go to the Most High with it.
I know. And there was verses in, I think it was Timothy. I pulled it before, and how Paul was like, listen, the people that have things, you got to keep giving. Matter of fact, it's 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17.
Got it.
Read that.
1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded.
The Most High, listen, Paul was like, the people that are rich have to be charged. And the charging is just having them give what they can to the body to support the body. For what reason? There's multiple reasons. One, to help the body out to have nothing. Read on.
Nor trust in uncertain riches.
Nor trust in uncertain riches. Listen, Paul was like, give up what you got. So you don't learn to make your money your crutch. Your resources your crutch. Because listen, it's not about the size of the house or the car you got. What it is do you have enough to get by? And that's it. Or are you sitting back here and saving all this extra to get on top? You're like, that's what the Most High has situated all our lives into. You have enough to sustain, but not get comfortable. And he's like, the people that have a lot got to give to where they're not operating comfortable anymore. Read on.
But in the living power, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy.
So we're all supposed to be in a situation where we're not ultra comfortable and extra broke, but being able to have to sit back and function and still trust Him. Yes, sir.
My question is, so is that why we pray the Lord's Prayer?
Come. Our daily bread. Come. The truth is, it's not about being this, I don't got nothing in my pocket. And it's not about having this super trust fund. The ones with the trust fund got to give up to help the body out, and then they get even again. You with all the poor folks now. Your trust fund might have got you a house, but now the demands of the body brings you back down to your daily bread also.
Check to check.
That's the point. It's not about the house.
It's just a higher form of check to check.
And that's the only difference. So the Most High reduces you back to a higher form of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Technically.
Yeah, you just have a better brand. You have a larger property. You have a better school district. But you're still living.
You're still struggling.
Where if one thing slips, you could be in a bad
You're
situation.
living off of faith still. The credit card can only bail you out so many times. Listen, the Most High will take you to where your credit card is maxed. Your credit card is maxed. Now what, G? You can't keep going back to that credit card well. Well, you say, yes, Mr. Capital One person. Listen, I would like to get a $5,000 edition. They're like, no, man, no. I say
You're
this all the
serving
time.
the Lord this year.
Yeah, you're the serve God. What? Yes. Listen, we have actually decided to lower your account number that you can pull out. This is what happens. Now you got to live by what? Faith. Now you got to trust the Heavenly Father. Then the Most High comes back in. Then the Most High comes through for you. Then you're reminded how great the Most High is. Most High is great. Let me appreciate everything He brings to me.
But then we get to that. Won't He do it?
Won't He do it?
Huh?
But it's still for our own personal come up.
Yeah, of course.
To
The body.
nation or the camp or the body. It's still because I'm coming up. Now God is good.
Yep.
But it's not if the body's coming up, but if everybody.
I know.
It's I'm coming up.
God. But the Most High breaks you down slowly that way.
Yes, He does. Yes, He does.
To where he tries to develop you to learn the only thing that matters is the body.
Come.
Then He'll sit back here and work you to where He's broken you down, you've given so many times, now you can't go back to the well and get no more money.
Yeah.
You know why? Because now somebody else got to come through. We're in that situation right now. I know how many times I've given, I know how many times He's given. Most High is like, no, somebody else got to come through now. You got to give somebody else an opportunity to finish out what's being built. You're not going to take the glory this time, dude. No, you wait. The credit man says, hell no. Go to somebody else when your credit's at a 700. Well, listen, let's burn out that 700. Oh, you got a fresh 7? Come on down. You couldn't use that fresh 7.
That's the sacrifice. Now that's,
you got to get that fresh 7.
Now. That's the dope.
Like, oh, no. Who got 720 in here? Ooh, you better come here. Come on. Come on, 720.
We're going to talk to you.
Oh, my God.
It's an online application.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is take 5 minutes to do this application. You'll be all right. Yeah. You get the answer in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes.
Anyway, we're joking, but we're not. Yeah, this is how the Most High works. And listen, what else can you give the Most High? With all honesty, what else can you give the Most High? What's that?
Experience that's already been done.
Khan. What else can you give the Lord?
Trying to get from people
Khan.
this experience, what others have already done to get things to this level. You know, it's everybody's turn.
Khan. And what else can you give the Lord?
Khan.
Listen, it's a beautiful thing for Israel to come and sit down and get class. That's a beautiful thing. But who does that benefit? Who does class benefit? The student. But then once again, the Most High wants a sacrifice. What does a sacrifice mean? Something that means something to you that you got to give.
Mm-hmm.
Is a sacrifice something that benefits you solely? It's not a sacrifice then. Right? Was that?
Can I say something? That goes back to say for me. So we come in as students and we receive the information we need. We go back into the world with the information. We get that good skill, with that good training. We're supposed to be able to now come back and the camp and help out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we can't just always keep coming in for that information when we're weak, we're going through it in the world. It's not the brothers. It's not the elders, problem, but we still come back to the elders. They take their time, their patience, they listen. They give you counsel, and then, you go back, but you never come back in.
Mm-hmm. I get you. Yeah, I get you, sir. Yes. And just know this much. This isn't us trying to, force people to do something they're not able to do. We're supposed to build Israel up spiritually so that they want to give. All we're saying is, a lot of people come to us and say, there's no room for growth. Where can I grow? Well, once you get past the Bible and the scriptures, the growth is in what you give. That's where the growth is. The growth is in what you commit to. How many of us come to class, they get the word, it feels good, but then you kind of hit a wall?
Well, because then that's when the sacrifice becomes necessary. Because the sacrifice is the determination of your faith. That's the evidence of your faith. Because faith without works is dead. So how else can you work to show the Most High that you believe in His word, but sacrifice as an effort to prove and back up the fact that I believe what I'm hearing? So you need the sacrifice because that is the evidence of your belief.
Yes, sir.
And that's how the Most High works.
So you're saying that they go hand in hand.
They go hand in
You
hand.
can't have one without the other.
Listen,
you can have faith in word by saying by word, yeah, I believe. But where's the proof behind the I believe? The proof comes in with the sacrifice. That's what you show the Most High how much you believe based on how much you sacrifice.
Christ explained it very simply when He says you have a field and you sell your field to invest into another field. He's explained the process of pursuing Christ. He says the kingdom is like a man who had a field and sold what he had because he went over that field and knew this field was more valuable than the field that he has. And that transaction, that commitment is the showing of faith. And like Shamshawan said, are we going to put our money where our mouth is and make the commitment that backs our words or our physical turnarounds in the class? And we're not sitting back here begging for nothing. We're just explaining. The Spirit just got us here. Spirit just got us here. This is not like this was not like
hey,
you.
We're going through the lanes.
We go hit the people that you gotta give.
And then we're going to the
That
ocean.
was not the thinking.
And then we're gonna go to the tides. That's how you get there. Hold on. You gotta ask this question.
The Sixth Syrian War.
I'm gonna text him.
Menelaus.
Text him.
Ties.
Text him.
That don't even sound right.
Ptolemaic Empire. Because Solo's still here. Is that the Carthaginian Empire? No. Wait, just wait. We're almost there. Come on, huh?
Listen. That's tremendous. If that was the angle, how we gonna tie it in from the Sixth Syrian War, Antiochus Epiphanes, Menelaus? You gotta pay your fare.
Got me.
That's tremendous. Anyway, let's get back on the topic so people don't think we're just pushing that direction, because we're really not. Whatever people give, they give. If brothers want to come to class, hey, I'd rather have people here in class than not. So we appreciate whatever people bring to the table. Okay, so let all that go. Where are we in Maccabees? Let's go verse 40 again. I think it was where the common people. Yeah.
Second Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 40.
Mm-hmm.
Whereupon the common people rising and being filled with rage, Lysimachus armed about 3,000 men.
So Lysimachus was under the orders of Menelaus. So people are getting angry. He sits back here and sends a squad of 3,000 men to do what? You ever see that, like those people in like Tiananmen Square, these protesters, and they have all these soldiers and these riot gear,
Yeah,
with the mask and the billy clubs and the tear gas. This is what's about to happen with the common people who are complaining about this gold transference in the temple. Read on.
And began first to offer violence.
So they said they first offered violence. You ever seen, like, in those peaceful protests or those protests, people kind of they have the military just push the people forward and get them away from a particular area? And that's how they start. They say, can you back away? We need you to back away. We need you to back away. We need you to back away. Then they start sitting back here and bringing in military forces, and they kind of just start shoving you out. And then if guys want to start ramping things up on the other side, then they're forced to throw away tear gas. Then it escalates into billy clubs. Then it escalates with these rubber bullets to start shooting people and hurting people. But it's an escalation. They said Lysimachus' group just initially retaliates with blunt physical violence off rip.
off the top.
That's why they said Menelaus was a tyrant. This guy's sitting back here eating chicken and steak in his palace, ordering coups and ordering insurrections against people who have the right to complain about what's happening in the temple. So let's continue.
And began first to offer violence. One Aranus, being the leader.
So he says, and began first to offer violence. One Aranus, read on.
Being the leader.
So he was the guy, the on-ground leader guy that was under Lysimachus. Read on.
A man far gone in years.
He's an older man. Read on.
And no less in folly.
The older you are, you're supposed to have less folly about you. He said this guy is older and is foolish and is an idiot and a hothead. Listen, your job is to calm down the situation, not incite the situation.
Like a 40-year-old gangbanger. What are you doing?
Like sugar free out there.
Somebody's gonna lose tonight.
somebody will get a flow tonight. Somebody will get hurt tonight. This is what's happening, Oranus. He said this guy is foolish. He's an older man that never learned his lesson. He's obviously a hothead. So read that part again. One Arrhenius.
One Arrhenius, being the leader, a man far gone in years, and no less in folly.
So what's happening, these guys are operating violently with leaders on the ground who are hotheads. It is destined to be a violent, physical, out of control situation. Hold that and go to Proverbs 28 and verse 7.
Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 7. Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son, but he that is in companion of riotous men shameth his father.
He's like, listen, the riotous men was the soldiers. The soldiers were riotous men because they were ready to sit back here and just go to war and put hands on people without calming and pacifying the people. So the Most High is watching these riotous men react carnally to the common people who have a justified point, and the Most High is ashamed of what's happening in the city. These riotous men are sitting back here inflaming a tense situation, and the Most High is sitting back here like, man, this is getting bad. There's riots in the city. Innocent people are about to get murdered. And Menelaus' men are inflaming the situation with more riotousness in their nature.
Well, it makes sense because as the head is, so are his officers.
That's the point. That's the point. So the Most High is watching these riotous people, and it's shaming the Heavenly Father. Hold this, or let this go, and go to Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 26 and 5. Ecclesiastes 26 and 5.
Ecclesiastes chapter 26 and verse 5. There be three things that my heart feareth, and for the fourth I was sore afraid. The slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude.
Listen, this is an unruly multitude gathering together, led by Uranus.
Or anus.
Yeah, really. There's Uranus or Uranus, whatever this guy's name is. He's a hothead. He's an old head that's trying to prove a point. He says these things the Most High has what? He says the Most High has a theory about. Because you know nothing good's going to happen with this protest. These guys want to put hands on the poor and put them in order and get physical with them.
They want to flex.
They want to flex. He said this is about to be a bad situation. Read on.
There be three things that my heart feareth, and for the fourth I was sore afraid. The slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly multitude, and a false accusation. All these are worse than death.
Listen, it's worse than death to sit back here and see vengeful, angry people in leadership positions ready to go to war with the people who have a justified complaint. Listen, this guy is leading his country with an iron fist. If anybody speaks out about his decisions, he's beating on them, he's killing them. This is why they said Menelaus was a tyrant. So let all that go, and let's get to verse 41.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 41. They then seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones.
So they said the common people saw Lysimachus and Uranus in their attempt to get physical with the common people. So what did the common people do? The Most High, he knew this was going to be a bad situation. The common folk did what? They're catching stones, clubs. They're getting stones. They're getting clubs. Read on.
Some of them caught stones, some clubs, others taking handfuls of dust that was next at hand, cast them all together upon Lysimachus.
So they took all of these weapons and said, we're going to go to war with these dudes. If I got a billy club, I got a bat, I got a stick, I got dirt, forget these dudes. I'm coming at them. Read on.
And those that set upon them, thus many of them they wounded.
So what's happening is, read that part. We read 41, right? And they were said, read verse 42.
Verse 42. Thus many of them they wounded, and some they struck to the ground, and all of them they forced to flee. But as for the church, robbed himself.
No, the church robber.
But as for the church robber himself, him they killed beside the treasury.
So what's saying is a lot of the people, the common people, got beat down and they ran them off. But they ended up killing Lysimachus. The guy that was the fall guy from Menelaus, They caught him slipping out, caught him behind the treasury, and killed him out. But this is nothing but chaos happening. This is riots, and we're going to read later on. It's riots and nothing but internal warfare going on in the city right now. Most like this is crazy.
Unruly.
Everybody wants to talk about what? Antiochus is coming in here and defacing the temple. Before that happened, we were fighting ourselves. We were fighting ourselves, taking advantage of one another. So the people started protesting. They were getting beat on. They retaliated with grabbing whatever they could, start fighting back. They ended up catching Lysimachus slipping and killing him. Okay? So all this whole scenario looks like Menelaus can't run his city properly.
Would this scripture apply? I'm not sure. This is a question. Ecclesiastes 26:5. There be three things that my heart feared. For the fourth I was so afraid. The slander of a city.
We just read that.
Just read that.
Oh, we just read that? Okay, I'm tripping. Yeah. Sorry about that. I just heard unruly in my head.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay.
So it does apply, obviously.
Yes, it applies. Yes, it does.
I'm sorry. I missed that one out.
Go to Proverbs 29 and 2.
Let's go to Proverbs 29 and 2. I got a scripture. I got a scripture. I think Proverbs 29 and 2 would be appropriate for this.
Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2.
That's why you got to write the notes down. There you go. There it is.
I'm having a hard time here.
Proverbs 29 and 2.
Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2.
Yeah.
When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn.
And this is the point. The wicked are bearing rule. The people are complaining. They're mourning. They're sad. They're angry. They see the injustices. They can't speak out on it. They're getting beat down if they speak up on what's going on. This is a complete mismanagement of the city. There's a mismanagement of how the city is being governed. And now it's going to have to get, these incidents have to get reported up to the municipalities of Greece.
That's a problem.
So they can start. That's my point.
That's a real problem.
So now the issues got to keep coming up. Now there's more bad juju happening to Menelaus because he's running things the wrong way.
It's like the BLM riots, something like that.
Well, listen. Now this is actually a just cause. But let's continue. Let's let this go. Verse
43.
Yeah.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 43. Of these matters, therefore, there was an accusation made against Menelaus.
So now, with all this chaos coming down, now Menelaus is getting indicted. Menelaus, they got a case on Menelaus. Formal charges are being laid out for Menelaus about some kind of poor conduct, how he handled this situation, how he handled leadership in this scenario. He's trying to get indictment and heat on him again, like there was about to be heat on him from Onias catching him with the ornaments, the gold ornaments.
Yeah.
Well, his policies came out of desperation when he put his foot in his mouth, promising more money than what he could actually afford. Yep. And then he took desperate tactics to get more gold, and now this is the fallout for being corrupt.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the point. But he's not seeing it as the Most High is teaching him a lesson. He just sees it as another little issue he's got to get around to maintain his power. The Most High speaketh once, yea twice, yet man perceives it not. Would you finish verse 42, right?
We were on 43.
Let's read Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha 10, verse 8.
Ecclesiastes?
Yep.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit.
Listen, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries to the people, and riches got by deceit. What do you think's happening with the kingdom? Menelaus is getting riches by deceit, by thievery, by negativity.
Yep.
Read on.
The kingdom is translated from one people to another.
This is how you know the kingdom's about to fall apart. Everything Menelaus is doing lets you know that Antiochus has to come in here and desecrate the temple. The Most High is going to allow Antiochus to desecrate the temple because of what? Because of all the unrighteous dealings of the Jew in leadership. We had to get stuck. We had to lose our position. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hear that part.
I know. Everybody wants to focus on it's December. It's December and Hanukkah, and how we had to fight back from the evil white man. I get it. Why did we lose the position in the first place? Why did the evil white man come in the first place? It was us. It's always us. This is a lesson for us to know our bad conditions are because of our decision making. We can talk about Esau and all his wickedness all we want. It doesn't change the fact that if we did right, the Most High would protect us. Okay. So, let's continue.
43 again?
Yeah.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 43. Of these matters, therefore, there was an accusation laid against Menelaus. Now when the king came to Tyrus, 3 men that were sent from the Senate pleaded the cause before him.
So now, the senators came to Antiochus and were trying to plead their case against Menelaus. They're like, hey man, Menelaus is doing some dirt. We got some accusations on him, man. We got a few cases on this guy. Antiochus, what are we going to do? We can't just sit back here and avoid the law. Read on.
But Menelaus, being now convicted, promised Ptolemy, the son of Dorymenes, to give him much money if he would pacify the king toward him.
What he's saying is, listen, Menelaus, first of all, before we get to Menelaus, the charges got to the Senate. The Senate brought the charges to Antiochus Epiphanes. Menelaus knows that the charges got to Antiochus Epiphanes. So Menelaus goes to one of the Ptolemy leaders from the king in the south and says, listen, can you talk to Antiochus for me?
That's a bad move.
Listen, bro, you don't give a damn. This is, I don't know if you ever watched like damn it, I forgot the movie. It was with Kevin Spacey. It was a TV show. It was president.
He's the president, right?
He was the president, and he got canceled because he got canceled. But it was so many.
He's a dirty dude.
He did a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
But what was happening is the whole TV show was about presidents and high level people were doing deals with one another to like evade the law. So Menelaus is going to the Ptolemy leader.
House of Cards.
Yes.
He was House of Cards. There you go. I need the finger guy. He's doing it. This Kevin Spacey TV show. So yeah. So what's happening is Menelaus goes to the head of the Ptolemy leadership and says, hey, can you talk to your guy for me and get me off the hook? I'll give you more money from the temple. Where did you get this money from?
Man,
it's more temple money.
It's desperate, man.
I'm going to just give you more temple money. I'm going to sit back here and suck this temple dry. The temple will have no more gold. No more silver, no more gold. He's going to pawn off everything in the temple.
That's how he got his position.
I know.
They say that, the problem with telling one lie is you got to tell another lie to sustain that lie. So you got to keep telling lies from that point on to sustain the original lie you told.
Yep.
So these are more and more promises that he's making to sustain the faulty promise that he's in a fix for it right now.
God, now. So don't you think the Most High is like, I got to do something about this. This negative, this stench of negative is getting too high. I got to come down here and deal with this very soon.
Yep.
So the Most High is about to deal with this very soon. But so let's see if this Menelaus plot works. He's talking to a guy with Ptolemy's side to see if he can talk to Antiochus and get me off the hook. Read on.
Verse 45. But Menelaus, being now convicted, promised Ptolemy, the son of Dorymenes, to give him much money if he would pacify the king toward him. Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into a certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be another mind.
So Ptolemy sat back here, talked to Antiochus Epiphanes, and convinced him not to sit back here and go through with the charges. convinced him not to prosecute Menelaus. Read on.
Insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusations, who notwithstanding.
Stop. Before you go there. In 2 words, what is Menelaus trying to get Ptolemy to do with Antiochus Epiphanes? He's trying to get Ptolemy to do what? This is a what? A cover-up. It's a bribe. But the bribe is used to set up a cover-up so that maybe evidence isn't brought out. Maybe all the information isn't disclosed. It's a cover-up. Hold this and go to Proverbs 28 and 13.
Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 13. He that covereth his sins shall not prosper.
Listen, he's covering up his sins. This is the 2nd or 3rd time he's had an opportunity to own up to his negative decisions. 2nd or 3rd time, he could have just sat back and said, man, I messed up. I'm in the wrong. Forgive me. But each time he doubles down and he covers up his decisions. And he sits back and covers up. He bribes this person, gives to this person. So the truth about his conduct doesn't get exposed. This is the person who keeps covering up. The Most High is not going to what? What does verse 13 say?
He that covereth his sins shall not prosper.
He's not going to prosper. He's about to fall. The Most High is about to destroy him. Go to Proverbs also chapter 6, verse 12 through 19.
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 12. A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a froward mouth.
Listen, a negative person walks around and deals with a disobedient way of talking. He's disobedient, he's crude, he's cruel, he's disrespectful. This is how Menelaus is. He's not sitting back here. He doesn't operate with honor on any level. It's disrespect, and I'm just going to be cruel, I'm going to be a tyrant. I'm going to sit back and deal with people protesting and just deal with it with brute force. Because this is how Menelaus is. Read on.
He winketh with his eyes. He speaketh with his feet. He teacheth with his fingers. Forwardness is in his heart.
Disobedience is in his heart. It's in his mind to cut corners. It's in his heart to go opposite of how he's supposed to be. Read on. What's that? What you got?
It says, it says, of course, you just read the word, right?
Yeah.
Forward. The first word for forward, the definition, is perverse. Perverse means literally turned aside, distorted from the right. So, saying forward is another way of saying a person's distorted from what's right. A person's literally turned aside. A person's untractable. It says petulant. It says disposed to cross or to vex. Disposed to cross, which means betray, or to what? Or to vex. This is the spirit of a person with a froward mouth. Disobedient, yes, but in particular, they cross you, they vex you, they're peevish, they're contrary, they distort what's right because they're obstinate. That's the terminology for froward. That's the type of man. You know, the scripture shows you, because of the man's mouth comes from the what?
Heart.
From the heart. So if this is his speech, what's in his heart? This same mindset. So I wasn't making a long point, but
Read the verse again.
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 14.
But read verse 13 one more time.
Verse 13. He winketh with his eyes.
So what is he doing? Well, somebody winking at you. What is that? Why would a person wink at you? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are antics. He's showing you, like, the FBI, CIA, they study body language.
Yes, sir.
They read body language to determine when people tell them the truth or when they lie. They say when you ask somebody a question, if they look up to the right, they're thinking of a lie. You know what I'm saying? They study people and antics and body ways. The Bible tells us the same thing, that people that have certain body postures and certain things that are identifiers and indicators that these individuals are not telling the truth. One of the things that they do is they wink with the eye. You know what I'm saying, right? Like what is that? No, I don't. You want me to go along with it, so you're winking the eye at me because you want me to agree with you, but you're doing things to. It's almost like a magician using magic tricks or somebody trying to hypnotize me to do something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm using a bell to hypnotize you. I'm using something to get your attention to take away the fact that I'm really trying to snow you and I'm trying to blow smoke.
I want you to go with the lie.
I want you to go with it. So I'm gonna do things to distract you from what I'm really trying to do.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, it's really subversive. Read?
Yeah.
He winketh with his eye. He speaketh with his feet.
Meaning what? Why would you talk like this? Why would you speak when you... No, man, listen. You got to believe me. Like, why would you be stomping and talking at the same time?
Awesome.
What are you doing?
That's the spirit of Atlanta. I was
Like,
Atlanta.
yeah, like I'm really trying to force this.
They're trying to get you out.
Yeah.
And you're not believing it because he's so
passionate.
I'm telling you, it's like, you know what, man? Get this man's money, bro.
Yeah.
He'll hook us up.
Yep.
I'll never see him again.
Yeah, it's a hustle. But then when you're trying to convince somebody, like, I put that on everything.
Yeah,
I put that on
And why you say
that on everything. But what are you doing?
That's the truth.
When people talk like that, man, listen.
Like listen,
bro.
you gotta like, do the slapping with the consonants, like the vowels. Listen,
Yeah.
you don't understand what I'm talking about.
Listen, I'll get your money. I'll get your money. Just give me 2 weeks. I'll get your money.
But see that makes it almost believable because, like, man, he's adamant, bro. Why am I tripping?
Yeah, like this guy's like, I'm gonna give you your money.
Yeah.
Like, give me a week. Like, damn, bro, what are you doing?
I see those arguments in the street sometimes.
Yeah, but those are convincing. Those are convincing arguments.
You gotta be the east side.
You gotta be.
Brothers arguing.
White man do it too.
Yeah, you're right.
He winks with the eye too.
Yeah.
Ask the Indians that.
Yeah.
How many contracts he broke?
Yeah, I promise you.
Yeah. Let's give us the rights to the land. Yeah, shake with his left hand.
Yep.
So he said, people that do these things, what are they doing? Read.
Then they'll call you an Indian giver, though.
Yeah, call you Indian. Yeah. Call
That's
you the
crazy.
Indian giver. You want to give it and take it back.
Yeah. That's them, though. Anyway, I'm sorry. Keep going, man.
Go ahead.
It says frowardness is in his heart.
Yeah, somebody that's stomping with, talking with their feet, teaching with their hands and winking their eyes. Man, these are all selling points. This is somebody trying to convince you to believe something. Because it's coercion. But you don't need to do all that to tell somebody the truth. You tell somebody the truth, you can look them in the eye and tell them the truth. You don't have to add all this extra embellishment and theatrics on top of what you're saying to try to convince somebody that you're telling the truth. Read.
He deviseth mischief continually.
What do you think's happening in the city? There's nothing but mischief going on. Huh? It's chaos and confusion. All he do is hide, covering his tracks, and his number 2 man got killed. He didn't give a damn.
Well,
all he's focusing on is him not having to catch the charge. He's like, put it on Lice and Make. He's already dead, man.
Say he did.
Why does he got to come to me? Remember in New Jack City, I had to put it on Christopher Williams' act. He's like, boy, he ran it off.
Yeah.
I didn't see him do it. He did it. Yeah. It's not true, But once again, when you're in crime, you always want to throw it on somebody else.
And to give a modern example for young people, you had King Von and then you had who? You had Dirk, right? And Dirk had a whole bunch of murders on him. He had a whole bunch of Bill Duke was like, we got you. He's like, listen, man, I didn't kill him. King Von did. But King Von's already dead. King Von like, man, I'm already dead. So King Von had to take the charge.
No way.
Yeah, true story.
That's crazy.
True story. And that was his play to get out of those cases. And the feds kind of won that case because
if that's your man, that's racketeering then.
Yeah.
He still got caught up.
It's a lesser charge though.
Yeah.
I didn't kill him. King Von did. He snitched on a dead man, so pretty much.
This is what Menelaus is doing.
He won't like Dirk right now.
And he's just showing. He says, he deviseth mischief continually. So where is he going to get this money for this next bribe he got at?
Yeah.
He keeps doing deals. He got to keep doing more wickedness to get out of the deals he's in. Read on.
This dude's hustling.
That's what I'm saying. He's all hustle, all politicking, all thievery. Read on.
He soweth discord.
He's sowing discord amongst the nation. We're losing more and more respect as a nation, viability as a nation. And people like saying, you guys sold out. It's one thing to put gems in there in your city. Now you're sitting back here and pawning all of your gold off in your temple. Everything that makes you guys special, you're just throwing away and giving it away. Just to keep position and power.
Yeah.
Continue.
And you sow discord because you make the people that used to be respectable and the position respectable. You make us look like a nation of liars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And now we look unbelievable to everybody around us.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. It's the truth. We've lost respect and legitimacy amongst the world like we do now. We try to sit back here and teach Israel and teach about bringing a nation together, and more times than not, we fall short of the mark. We fall short of the expectation to get the world to look at us with some respect. Because we're doing something, we're rolling certain ways, we're acting certain ways that are shameful.
You know, the devil is an accuser.
Yeah.
And when you give the devil ammunition to accuse you, that's what he uses as leverage to make you unbelievable.
Yep.
And that's why
look at this videotape.
Look at what these Hebrew Israelites are about. Look how they push this old lady down. That was a common thing about 4 years ago on video, where some Israelites pushed the old white lady down. But the news channel took a clip of the white lady falling down, but they didn't show what happened leading up to the fact that she was spitting in their face.
Yep.
But look at what they do. They'll edit that part out. That this woman was putting their hands on them, spitting in their face, and then they just take the part where the brother pushed the woman down and she fall. See, these Israelites.
Yep.
So that's what they're about. Mm-hmm. But the devil will do that. But you got to be extra blameless in positions of power, so that the devil don't have no ammunition on you, because that's what he'll use as leverage to either persecute you or remove your whole church or organization, or reasons or motivations to attack you.
Right.
And that's why you got to be blameless. But this guy Menelaus don't care about being blameless or righteous. So none of those virtues. It's all about making sure I cover up. I got to cover up what I made the mistake on for promising what I didn't deliver before.
So I can stay in power.
All
that matters is staying in power, not the credibility of the nation. Okay, so where are we at? Verse 15, right?
Proverbs chapter 6 and verse 15. Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly.
Calamity is coming very suddenly. Once we get past chapter 5 in Maccabees, the end is here. Israel's going to get wiped out, killed, murdered, tortured. The end is coming very soon for all of our people, and eventually Menelaus. He has to sit back and reckon for his decisions. But this is what happens when leadership is done the wrong way. Read on.
Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy.
Read on.
These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look.
Yep.
A lying tongue.
Mm-hmm. All this is hitting Menelaus. His pride, the lying tongue. He has yet to sit back and own up to his negative, his sin. Read on.
And hands that shed innocent blood.
Isn't this what happened with the riot? He's shedding innocent blood.
Because of him.
All this is based upon what? Covering up lies. Protecting a lie. Protecting a lie. Protecting crime and negative you did.
Yep.
You did negative, and now you're not owning up to it. Because that's what pride is. He doesn't accept his mistakes.
He couldn't take his check.
So now because you can't take your check, now the lies come in. Then the shedding of the blood comes in. Because whoever got the evidence got to die. Like Onias. He started with Onias. I think there's somebody there. Can somebody open that door? You're good.
No, that's open.
Okay. So whether it's shedding blood, the blood of the people who have the proof against you, read on.
A heart that deviseth wicked imaginations.
Mm-hmm. Read on. Because the wicked imaginations are all based upon what? I gotta figure out how I can avoid judgment. So who do I got to bribe? Who do I got to cheat? Who do I got to steal? Who do I got to rob to get my way? That's the wicked imaginations. Read on.
Feet that be swift in running to mischief.
Mm-hmm.
False witness.
Quick to be violent.
Con.
Quick to abuse people.
Quick to sit back here and protect myself. Who do I got to take advantage of to get what I need? Read on.
A false witness that speaketh lies.
Mm-hmm. And
he,
now we're trying to coerce Antiochus to be a false witness.
Wink.
Now I'm a bribe Ptolemy to get to Antiochus to sit back here and give false judgment so I can stay on top. Everything that he did is in this Proverbs. Read on.
And he that soweth discord among brethren.
God. And now, while he's protecting himself, there's nothing but disharmony, a lack of trust amongst the ruling class and the common people.
Yep.
Now there's a class war.
Class warfare.
The common people are angry. They're broke. They're the ones who are suffering more. The rich get richer. The poor get poorer. And now the poor don't even have a temple to go to that's completely intact.
Now they're in misery. You gotta think about this. If you have to grind and you're not getting anything out the deal, and you can't go to church, listen.
This is why these guys listen. They said they're so angry they're just gonna grab dirt and throw at people out. Listen, you gonna go to war with dirt at? How far is that gonna go?
Desperation, bro.
You just angry.
That's the point. You're desperate. Somebody got to feel what I'm feeling. So this was obviously a point. It was like a point where everybody just lost it.
The only outlet you have to deal with the misery of your life, you can't even go there.
Yes.
To get that, because listen,
because there's no pride in it no more.
The wealth class has the vices. Their church is their vice world. They go to their vice world to get their head together. The poor, those in poverty, they're going to the temple to get their head together. Mm-hmm. They can't get their mind right. So their lives are becoming more miserable because of the greed and negativity of others. They're suffering. Mm-hmm. But the wealthy can afford to be negative.
God.
You can't afford to do this.
So, let all that go. I think we finished in 19. Let's get back to verse 47 now.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 47. Insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusations, who notwithstanding was cause of all the mischief.
But he gave him a not guilty act. Listen, Menelaus was not guilty.
Yeah.
Menelaus was not guilty.
All of his money.
Exactly. I got all his money. That's why he's not guilty. Because I'm collecting all the money. Read on. Read verse 47 again from the top.
Verse 47.
The song got in the way, man. I didn't know, man.
Insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusations, who notwithstanding was cause of all the mischief. And those poor men, who if they had told their cause, yea, before the Scythians, should have been judged innocent.
So he says, listen. He said, if these poor men who laid the accusations against, to Antiochus Epiphanes, he said, if they brought it to barbarians, they would have been innocent. The Scythians were known as barbarians. So they're saying if we would have sat back here and brought this case to damn barbarians, they would have said, man, you guys have a just position. Kill Menelaus. Your lives should be spared.
They would have been more
barbarians would have sat back here. What he's saying is barbarians don't understand basic laws in civilian life. But these barbarians, this case is a slam dunk case, is what he's saying.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is a slam dunk case. And a Scythian would have sat back here and judged it right. And these guys don't know, they're barbarians.
Like saying Ray Charles could see this one.
Yes. So easily a caveman can do it.
Yeah.
Like, listen, bro, this is not a hard judgment. The evidence is clear as day. It's an open and shut case. But Antiochus sits back here and says that the poor people were guilty. That's what he's implying. Read that part again.
And those poor men, who if they had told their cause, Yeah, before the Scythians should have been judged innocent. Them he condemned to death.
Antiochus condemned the innocent men who were reacting to the stealing of the holy items. They had to die instead of Menelaus. So this is another messed up situation that Menelaus did and Antiochus did. Don't forget. Hold this. I'm gonna read this real quick in Daniel's, just as a reminder of why we went here in the first place and why we situated it the way we did. Daniel's chapter 11 and verse 28 says, "Then shall he, Antiochus Epiphanes, return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant." This is what's happening. His heart's against the holy covenant because of the people he's endangering. Then it says, "And he shall do exploits and return to his own land." His exploits against Israel is to utilize for one's own end to advance through exploitation. He sat back here and chose Menelaus' side in a court procedure that was an open and shut case, ends up killing innocent people so that he can sustain the income coming to him. This is what the exploits is talking about in Daniel's 11 and verse 28. Does that make sense? The exploits is the cover-up, the conspiracy that's going on to sit back here and protect a guilty man and condemn honorable men to death. All right? Now we know Esau doesn't have to follow the law necessarily now, at least. But when you sat back, or the law wasn't given to him, but if you read Deuteronomy 16 and 19,
Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 19.
Deuteronomy 16 and 19.
Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 19. Thou shalt not wrest judgment.
Then this is what's happening. Menelaus is doing it, and Antiochus Epiphanes is they're wresting judgment. Rest means to wrestle. To wrestle with the open and shut direction of what the court verdict is going to be. They're manipulating it and twisting it to work for them. Versus letting the evidence speak for itself and establish a righteous conviction. Antiochus is guilty of this, and Menelaus is guilty of this. Okay,
But he had a fall guy, Lysimachus.
Lysimachus was his fall guy. But the rest in judgment, knowing that everything flowed from him anyway, with that plausible deniability is going on, and the people are suffering because of it. Innocent men and women are dying. Read it from the top again, verse
19.
No, not 19, the other one. In Maccabees.
That's 48.
Yeah, 48 again.
2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 48. Thus they that followed the matter for the city and for the people and for the holy vessels did soon suffer unjust punishment.
So they suffered unjust punishment. They were condemned to death. And the common people had to die because they were standing up for what was right. Okay? Read on.
Wherefore, even they of Tyrus moved with hatred of that wicked deed.
So even the people of Tyre and Zidon, who were non-Israelites, who were idolaters, knew that what was done to those poor people was unfair. Read on.
Caused them to be honorably buried.
So they says, out of the people of Tyre and Zidon, the nation's own pockets, they set up a GoFundMe out for the common people out.
Oh.
I'm just being silly with the GoFundMe, but they sat back here and put the money together and buried these common people properly, because obviously criminals would get an honorable death or a cheap death. So what they're saying is they sat back here and spent the money to give them a sepulcher and do right for them. The funny thing is that even the world, the nations had better class and respect for people than we did at this time. We were on the bottom of the barrel of society. We were really low level.
It goes back to what you said in the class about the grapes, the vines, dealing with the plant being degenerate.
Yeah.
It's degenerating.
What happened is within one generation, we went from the cream of the crop of society to the bottom of society. We went to the bottom of society where the nations are like, bro, this is the barbarians would have judged things better than y'all. The Tyrians, Zidonians, who are what? These guys sit back here and kill their babies for their idols. And they had more class than we had. In one generation, we diminished. Our caliber diminished that bad.
You had a major recession of spirituality.
And we wonder why the Most High had to sit back here and bring such a vicious response, like the abomination of desolation and all the bad things that happened. It had to happen to clean up the filth from within. Okay. Read verse 50, sir.
Verse 50. And so through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority.
This guy still sitting on top. This is like a movie. Menelaus is still on top.
He's like a villain.
He's a definite villain. He's like Kingpin.
Yeah.
This guy's like Kingpin. And he's beating indictments. You can't put him in jail. He's extorting people. You're gonna take a fall in the 5th round. If you don't, you're gonna die. Your kid's gonna die. It's all kind of crime boss stuff.
Yeah, it's crime boss.
This is Vice City. The Grand Theft Auto.
It's a bad guy.
Hell's Kitchen.
Well, this is Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
There's no Daredevil to save him. This guy's just running the city. Think about all the crime bosses you can think of. He went around with his white suit, beating people up.
Yeah.
Well, he's the Godfather.
Yeah, Godfather.
The bad one in
number 2.
No. Yeah, number 2 when it was like how number 1 got his start.
Yeah.
When he killed the guy in the white suit and he was sitting back here strong arming everybody. Remember that?
Yeah.
I guess not. Anyway, point is, Menelaus kept getting away with a lot of crime, and nobody was able to stand up against him. Go to Ezekiel chapter 7. The funny thing is, 7 verse 21 through 25. I have another one. I'm not going to go there, but you keep seeing the same repetition of bad actions and wicked actions towards the people, and it kind of is indicative of how you know the city is about to fall. There's about to be a transition in leadership based upon how poorly the men are taken advantage of, how poorly the people are being taken advantage of. Ezekiel 7 and 21 through 25.
Ezekiel chapter 7 and verse 21. And I will give it into the hands of the strangers for a prey, and to the wicked of the earth for a spoil.
He's going to give the city over to the wicked for a prey. So the Most High is going to allow the wicked to prey on the city like the people in the city are preying on one another. Think about that. He's going to allow the city to be open up for the strangers to pray and feast on the city. But the elite of the city have been praying and feasting on the poor the entire time. You read that in Ezekiel, read it in Jeremiah, you're reading it now in 2 Maccabees. And so our people are taking advantage of the weak. So the Most High is going to let the nations come in and take advantage of us.
And that affects them.
That's the point.
Because every time you have to take a loss, you put the poor in front of the bully.
So now the Most High, the elite are going to feel this pain. That's the only way to get the elite to wake up. Read on.
And they shall pollute it. My face will I turn also from them, and they shall pollute my secret place.
Listen, what's the Most High's secret place? The temple. You're like, I'm going to let the nations pollute my secret place. They ain't going to be no gold in it, but he going to pollute it.
To it's better the temple get polluted and the people get clean. He really sacrificed the temple.
That's the point. But he's like, you're already polluting the temple. So I'm going to sit back here and make it worse than what you thought. I'm going to pollute it worse. Don't forget, they were putting phallic symbols in the temple.
Yeah.
They were putting masculine phallic symbols and women phallic symbols in the temple. On top of the sacrificing a pork on the altar. My thing is, what's the difference? We were wicked as heck anyway.
Yep.
So he says he's going to sit back here and pollute the Most High's secret place. Read on.
For the robbers shall enter into it and defile it.
The robbers at this time were the Babylonians. The robbers at the time we're talking about now are the Greeks.
Yep.
He's going to allow the robbers come in and defile it like he allowed the Babylonian robbers to defile it. Read on.
Make a chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes.
So he says, why? Because the land, why is he going to allow the nations to come in and defile the temple? Because of all the bloody crimes. All the crimes of Menelaus. All the times inequity happened in the city.
It makes sense.
The poor weren't defended. If the poor weren't defended, the poor get put in jail while the wicked are allowed to come out, I'm going to bring a bigger beast to tame y'all.
People don't like that.
This is the whole point. We're a beast of our own people. We exploit our own people. So the Most High, the only way to break the exploiter is to put a greater exploiter over us.
Law of the jungle.
That's the point. We only respect the bigger beast.
Yep.
We didn't want to hear the Most High.
And then we call the white man the devil, but we was devils.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's why you read this Deuteronomy 28, a nation from afar away that didn't care about the young or the old. But guess what? We don't care about the young or the old. Did we? No, we didn't. Read on.
And the city is full of violence.
That's what he keeps showing. That's how you know
That makes sense.
that the new kingdom got to come in and take this out, because the city is full of violence.
But the downside of that is that when there's no temple, there's no way to serve the Most High. And if there's no way to serve the Most High, there's no way to give the Most High an offering. And if you can't give the Most High an offering, then there's no way to get a blessing. And if you can't get a blessing, then you inherit corruption.
There you go.
So when you turn off the ability for us to serve the Lord, it's a trickle down effect that actually bites us in the butt in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
We get affected in a negative way on the back end.
Huh?
So now there's lawlessness everywhere.
Yep. 100%.
What he's saying, that there's no sacrificing, and the people are being taken advantage of. They're dying. There's innocent blood in the streets. Something's got to get done. Read on.
Wherefore I will bring the worst of the heathen.
He said he's going to bring the worst of the heathen. Why does the worst of the heathen got to come and punish the Jew? Because we're the worst of our people. Who's getting punished? The worst of our people are getting punished. He got to bring the worst of the heathen to match our worstness. That's the scary part.
A man can be a woman.
Kind of. Listen, this crime boss and stuff. This exploitation of the poor of our people.
I'm gonna make
bringing gym culture in there.
I'm gonna make you feel how you made your brother feel.
Come.
You made your brother cry out to the Lord. I'm gonna make you cry out to the Lord.
That's the point. He's bringing the worst of the heathen to us. Read on.
Wherefore I will bring the worst of the heathen, and they shall possess their houses.
You think the heathen are going to come and possess the one bedroom flats at, where the apartments at, the efficiencies? You think everyone want the efficiencies in Jerusalem?
Ooh.
You know there was different areas of Jerusalem. Like the south part was where all the broke folks were at. The higher up you get was where the elites lived at. I don't know if y'all knew that. Like at the bottom of the city was where everybody that had no money was at. And up north is where all the money was at.
North side.
North. So what's happening is this. It was like a Boulevardier.
Yeah.
It's different air out there. This is the country.
It smells better.
It smells better.
The food tastes better. The coffee tastes better.
God.
The gas is better when you pump in your car.
Yes, sir. Exactly. You get more for your dollar.
You get more.
But what's the point? The point is that the Most High sends the worst of the heathen to neutralize our people when we're off.
Yep.
Come.
Kind
Look, it's Argentina.
Well, let's continue.
I will also make the pomp of the strong to cease.
Well, listen. Who has the pomp? The proud.
The proud.
The elite. The ones with the money.
Yep.
Listen. First of all, the worst of the heathen are going to take the rich estates. It's going to take the estates of the Tobiads.
Mm-hmm.
You don't read it yet, but the Tobiads were siding with Menelaus. The Ammonite elites, they were with Tobias. They were with Menelaus. They weren't even with Jason. So Menelaus got the Tobiads backing, and the Tobiads are backing Menelaus too. So all the elites of Jerusalem, Moses is going to send the worst at them.
And let me read this one point.
Mm-hmm.
It says, rich Jews were also won over, for they could afford to yield to temptations that the Greeks provided. Jews who sought appointment from Greek officials, so these were sellouts, felt it part of the policy to speak the Greek language. So if you was a rich Jew, you wore the Greek clothes.
Yeah.
We went over before,
Yep.
where they wore a garment called it was called not a toga, but it was called a shemish or something to that degree. And it said they sought Greek appointment from Greek officials. It says as part of policy to speak the Greek language, to live in the Greek way, and to say a few kind words to the Greek gods.
Wow.
So it's showing how the leaders, our people, was already selling out for position. They were selling out in culture. They were selling out in language. And they was already speaking kindly to Greek gods. So, which is idolatry. So it forces the Most High to have to come in and smash everything we believe in our temples. Because it wasn't about us, about him anymore. It was about giving in to the Greek culture.
Yeah. Con. So, where are we at?
I will also make the pomp of thy strong to cease, and their holy places shall be defiled.
The holy places are going to be defiled. First of all, the elite defiled the holy places anyway. Now, the Most are going to defile these holy places even more than what they once were. Read on.
Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none.
What the Most High is saying is, once the Most High turns his back on Israel, we can pray all we want. He ain't listening. And listen, right now, this is the calm before the storm. Menelaus is on top. He's smiling. He's living his life. And coming right behind him is this destruction is really on its way. Okay?
Right.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sit back here and we're going to finish out this Daniel's 11. We're going to get back there and at least get us to the second part of the Syrian war, which starts in 168 BC. This is where it gets very important, because in 168 BC, after this war goes on, the next year he's coming, the Most High is allowing Antiochus to wipe out Jerusalem. Okay, so now, just a quick background. So while Antiochus gets back to Jerusalem and Israel and all these areas and these provinces, and he's doing bad deals and he's doing exploits, Ptolemy VI, Philometor, and Ptolemy Sycon were reconciled. They found ways to come back together and reunite Egypt. So Egypt is one again. Okay?
Yeah.
So Ptolemy VI and his brother Ptolemy Sycon were reconciled, possibly after a brief civil struggle. Antiochus, angered at his loss of control over the king, invaded again in 168 BC. The Egyptians sent to Rome asking for help. So they're prepared now. The Romans aren't fighting the Macedonians in Greece anymore. Egypt is like, listen, Antiochus Epiphanes coming down. They're going to take us over. We need your assistance desperately, Rome. Please help us out. Okay. So it says the Egyptians sent to Rome asking for help, and the Senate of Rome, obviously, dispatched Gaius Populus Leonus to Alexandria. So he was the one that spoke on behalf of the affairs of Rome. Yes, sir.
So if you go, Ptolemy is mad, and then that goes to his brother Antiochus.
No. Ptolemy VI and Ptolemy Sychon were at one time pitted against each other, and the country of Egypt was split in half. They make things right with each other, and they reunite. So them reuniting, Ptolemy Sychon and Ptolemy Philometor, they're running the kingdom together as a unit. So it's two guys running the country in Egypt. Antiochus is mad. Antiochus is the king of the north. He's mad that the two kings of the south have united. So now Antiochus from the north is going to come down and try to take over Alexandria and retake over Pelusium. Okay? That's what's happening. That makes sense? Okay. No problem, sir. Okay, so now it said, meanwhile, a Seleucid fleet, Seleucid is the northern kingdom, a Seleucid fleet seized Cyprus. Okay? Seized Cyprus. This is Cyprus. You look on the map, that's Cyprus. Cyprus is right under the country of Turkey in the Mediterranean Sea. So, Antiochus seizes Cyprus. And Antiochus' army took Memphis again. Okay? While at Memphis, he even issued an official decree as Egyptian king. So he got to Memphis, and Antiochus is coming off like he's the king. He's expecting to get from Memphis and eventually get to Antiochus and crown himself king of the territory. This is Antiochus thinking, I'm going to get to this area, I'm going to get to Alexandria, and I'm going to take over the entire time. And I'm going to be the head and master of the north and south, a feat my fathers never did. Okay? Now, hold this, and let's read Daniel's 11. 11 and 28. 29.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 29. At the time appointed, he shall return.
At the time appointed was 168 BC. At the time appointed was 168 BC. He returns. Read on.
And come toward the south.
He's going to come towards the south, like I told you, because the two kings unified, and he was trying to squash that. Read on.
But it shall not be as the former.
See, but it's not going to turn out like the first fight turned out. He's not going to be victorious like it happened the first time. Read on.
Or as the latter.
Or as the latter means, or what he expects. It's not going to turn out how he plans it. He's not going to get a win, and it's not going to turn out like he expects it to turn out. Read on.
For the ships of Chittim.
Now, the ships of Chittim. We're gonna hold this. We're going to go back to the reading. The ships of Chittim, keep that in mind. So the Ptolemaic armies, while at Memphis, Antiochus even issued an official decree as Egyptian king. Ptolemaic armies failed to offer any major battlefields, instead staying in fortified garrisons. So the Ptolemaic armies were weak, they were afraid, and they just stayed in their garrisons, stayed behind their walls, and wasn't fighting Antiochus. Okay, so now Antiochus was now prepared to march on the capital of Alexandria again. Okay, at Elios, on the outskirts of Alexandria, he met Pompilius Laenas. That was that guy I talked about earlier that was sent from Rome, Gaius Populus Laenas. Okay, so at Eulus, on the outskirts of Alexandria, right before you get into the heart of the city, he met Populus Laenas, with whom he had been friends during his captivity in Rome. So Antiochus knew the guy. Antiochus was cool with him when he was a prisoner in Rome. Now, he wasn't really a prisoner like he was locked up, but he lived in his own place and had guards watch after him. He just couldn't leave the city. So you can't leave, but you're kind of on house arrest.
What's it called?
So then, even though Antiochus Epiphanes is the king of the north, and the Ptolemies in Egypt called for Roman help,
Yep.
the help they called Antiochus Epiphanes already knew their help.
So I know this guy. What's up, man?
Like, you call the police on me, but I know the police officer.
But this the funny thing. But he did. But it didn't go the way he thought. Like we read in verse 29. Antiochus like, what's up, man? Remember me? Is this thing happening? Like, this is us. So he goes and tries to get a connection with Gaius Populus Lanus. And at Ilias, on the outskirts of Alexandria, he met Populus Lanus, with whom he had been friends during his stay in Rome. But instead of a friendly welcome, Populus offered the king an ultimatum from the Roman Senate. He must evacuate Egypt and Cyprus immediately. So listen, he didn't even sit back and give him a handshake.
Wow.
He said, listen, this is coming from the orders of the Senate. You got to leave Egypt and give up all your territory that you won. And you got to give up that city, Cyprus, that island that I just showed you. Give up Cyprus. Give it up. Or else. So then this is what happens. I got to read it from here. This is another one. He says, okay. Hence in 168 BC, Antiochus again invaded and overran all of Egypt except for Alexandria, read in another book, while his fleet captured Cyprus. So his fleet captured Cyprus, and they're about to sit back and take over Alexandria. Taking that over, he was going to have control of all Egypt. Now near Alexandria, he was met, near Alexandria at Ilias, met by Gaius Populus Lanus, who told him that he must immediately withdraw from Egypt and Cyprus. Antiochus said he would discuss it with his council. So he says, let me go back home and talk about this with my advisors, and I'll get back to you. Check this out. Whereupon the envoy drew round him a line in the sand. This Populus guy took a sword, drew a line in the sand, and circled him with this circle, and said, listen, you're going to give me an answer now. If you either you're going to leave or we're going to war right now.
Not playing with this.
What are you going to do? And the Roman legion was there. So before you leave this circle, I want an answer now. That's embarrassing.
That's another terminology for boxing somebody in.
Listen, you're boxed in.
Box me in the corner.
Listen, and he's all business. He's like, so either we're fighting right now, or you're gonna go home and get your ass out of Egypt in Cyprus.
Not playing with them.
You're either leaving or you fighting. Which one is it? There's no I'm talking to my people. No, it's either or. Because he's like, this territory is now Roman territory. He's like, this area that you're fighting for ain't even yours no more. It ain't even the king of the south. We have vested interest now in Egypt. There you go. So now, Antiochus said he would discuss it with his council, whereupon the envoy drew round him a line in the sand and said, before you cross this circle, I want you to give me a reply for the Roman Senate. The implication was that were he to step out of the circle without an immediate commitment to withdraw from Egypt and Cyprus, the Syrian king would find himself at war with Rome. Being ambitious but not crazy, Antiochus promised to withdraw, and only then Populus agreed to shake hands with him. Once the business is done, then I'm gonna see how you do. I'm gonna give you a big hug. How's it been? Listen, I gotta sit back and embarrass you first. I'm gonna put you on Front Street. If you step out of here without saying nothing, I'm gonna kill you right here on the spot. And we're going to war. Or you can walk out and turn around and get your ass out of here and never ever come back. He punked the king.
Yeah.
The Romans punked the king out. And that was embarrassing and humiliating. So, now we're going to take this. Huh?
He gangsta them hard.
He gangsta them. We're going to sit back here and we're going to read. And it was called the Day of Eleusis. Okay? Where it said, Populus offered the king an ultimatum from the Roman Senate. He must evacuate Egypt and Cyprus immediately. Rome had only just recently defeated the Macedonians at the Battle of Phoenix, potentially freeing up armies with which it could credibly threaten the solution. So they just beat those Macedonians. Now they got a freed up set of soldiers and a fleet to come take out Antiochus. And it said Antiochus begged to have time to consider, but Populus drew a circle around him in the sand with his cane, not a sword, and told him to decide before he stepped outside of it. Antiochus chose to obey the Roman ultimatum to avoid a new Roman Seleucid war, a retreat that Polybius described as personally humiliating for Antiochus. The day of Eleusis ended the Sixth Syrian War and Antiochus' hopes of conquering Egyptian territory. Now, let's read verse 30 in Daniel's.
Daniel chapter 11 and verse 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him.
The ships of Kittim. What is Kittim? We're going to sit back here, look at the screen. Kittim is the ancient word for Cyprus. The ships of Kittim, who did these ships belong to? What ships of Kittim stopped the king in the north? What ships of Kittim stopped the king in the north? We read it. It was the Roman ships. So the ships of Kittim is talking about Rome. So read it again. For the ships of Kittim shall come against who? Antiochus Epiphanes.
Okay.
The Romans came against Antiochus Epiphanes. He's explaining it very clear when you tie in the historical presence with the writing. Who owned these ships that was in Kittim? Who began at this particular time to have control over the Mediterranean Sea? Now it's Rome. Before this, it was the king in the north and the king in the south fighting over these territories. Now the Romans are starting to get a grasp over the entire region. So Kittim is sometimes spelled with a K or a CH. It's still Kittim, okay? And this is a better one. Cyprus is Kittim. That island of Cyprus, which is obviously a major hub and a shipping hub, that where a lot of the trade comes all around the world from. And it was a major logistics hub. Whoever had control of it had control over the region. So Antiochus was trying to take out Alexandria and get his paws on Kittim. The ships of Kittim were the warring ships that were prepared to go to war against Antiochus if he didn't give up Alexandria, Egypt, and Kittim. He had to give that up, which meant he got there and wasn't allowed to stay there. So read verse 30. Did that make sense? The ships of Kittim is talking about the Roman Empire. Read on.
Verse 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against it.
The ships of Kittim, the Romans, shall come against Antiochus Epiphanes. Read on.
Therefore he shall be grieved.
Therefore Antiochus will be grieved. We just read that it was a humiliating defeat. It said Antiochus chose to obey the Roman ultimatum to avoid a new Roman Seleucid war. But it says, maybe it's here. I just read it, how it was embarrassing. Yes, a retreat that Polybius described as personally humiliating for Antiochus. So, it says he shall be grieved, read on,
and return
back home, losing the entire territory. Read on.
and have indignation against the Holy Covenant.
But the Most High did what? The Most High allowed him to get embarrassed by a greater power to vex him and aggravate him enough to get angry enough to do damage to who? Us. This is what the Most High did. He said, you know, I'm going to embarrass this narcissist. I'm going to embarrass this narcissist to the level that he's going to turn on the Jew and make the Jew's life miserable and inflame this beast.
You're gonna shake him up.
That's going to sit back here and be a prey to the prey that are in the city. Like, I got to piss off Antiochus enough to make him want to really F us up. That's the truth.
He activated a bully.
Yeah, he created a bully. Most I knew what was in Antiochus. And for that Roman to sit back and put a circle around him with a stick out and say, listen, dog, you cross this, you done. Yeah, what are you going to do?
We need to know tonight. What you going to do?
You gonna post in the circle all that day long in Indian style?
Yeah.
Or you going to make a decision? Well, let me go to my officials. No, man. It's right here, right now. And you know, listen, he did it in front of all his men, too.
Yeah.
All of his top captains are watching him like he jumped out.
Used to be my homie. Used to be my ace.
Now I want to slap the taste out your mouth. Make you bow down to the rope. Anyway, that's where that sound came from first. That first came from that song. Anyway, what's the point? The point is that he was embarrassed and humiliated in front of the Roman soldiers, in front of the Greek soldiers. Mm-hmm. He had to walk back home with a tail between his legs. Wow. So the first thing that came in his mind, read on, was against the people of the Holy Covenant. Most I purposely turned his outlook towards smashing us.
Turns him up.
Read on.
Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the Holy Covenant.
Anything that had to do with the Most High, he had indignation towards. But the Most High turned that in his heart to shake up Menelaus and all the wickedness going on in the city.
And specifically in the priesthood.
In the priesthood, the Holy Covenant. First place he went to was the temple to desecrate it. And the Most High put that in his mind. That's what Proverbs 21 says. I think it's 21 and 1. Yep, read that. Proverbs 21 and 1.
Proverbs chapter 21 and verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord.
So the Most High said, the king's heart is in the hand of the Heavenly Father. The Most High was working on Antiochus' mind to get him to want to punish us. So we want to say, oh no, Antiochus is so wicked. The Most High put it in him to be wicked because we're wicked. I know I keep saying that a lot in class.
I'm going to give you a mirror. Listen.
I'm going to show you how bad you are.
The scriptures calls it, I will recompense you in thy heart.
Yeah.
I will recompense you. I'm going to show you.
Yep. So, read verse 30 in Daniel's again, from the top.
Daniel's chapter 11, verse 30. For the ships of Kittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return, and have indignation against the Holy Covenant. Mm-hmm. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence.
So when it says, and have intelligence with them, read on.
That forsake the Holy Covenant.
What is the intelligence? When it says, when you look up intelligence in 1828, it just says he became fixated.
What's that?
He became completely focused.
Obsessed?
The only thing that mattered was the holy people that were wicked.
That's like his whole devotion, his whole mindset.
His whole mindset was based upon sitting back here and how to defile these people. And specifically, he said the Most High gave him that intelligence with them that forsook the Holy Covenant. So the ones who was off, Most High brought him down to destroy them and punish them. And that intelligence was that he got beamed in. Matter of fact, what was that? I think it was 11 and 30. Let me see. I looked it up. Intelligence. Where it said to separate mentally. to understand, to attend, to consider, to be cunning, diligent, direct, discern, inform, instruct. He's just locked in. Mosai had Antiochus locked into Jerusalem. He's already embarrassed. He's already angry. And the Mosai is like, take out your anger and your embarrassment on the people who broke my covenant.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah.
This is what the Mosai did. This is what he did. He's embarrassed. He looks bad. He's pissed. And the Mosai just said, okay, I'm going to take all that negative energy and throw it there. And that's where that intelligence is. He's locking in. He's become laser focused on these Jews.
Is that rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil.
Khan. Now, there is another reason that he gets inflamed as he's getting embarrassed by the Romans. We're going to read next week that there was literal war in Israel. It was literal civil war. Jason comes back with his homies. Jason comes back. He wants his position back.
Now, Jason, we read
High Priest Jason.
We read it a couple of weeks ago. He was the main guy that instituted gymnasiums being put all around Jerusalem.
Now he wants to get back in, and he's gonna fight Menelaus.
Gym God.
Yeah, Gym God comes in here against Tyrant God, and they're going to war. The two worst negative leaders at the time of Israel were going to fight each other. And then Antiochus, with all this anger, don't forget, you read all throughout 2 Maccabees, Antiochus has to keep going back to these different cities to do what? Squash confrontations. So now Antiochus is embarrassed, he's vexed, he's pissed off, and now he hears about this commotion amongst the Jews in Jerusalem. He's like, I'm going to squash these niggas. Now, this is once and for all. I'm breaking these guys. And all that venom and anger is fixated on the Jew.
Yeah.
And that's how things get so bad. And we'll go on to that next week. We're going to be going into just reestablishing the loss with Antiochus. And then we're going to 2 Maccabees chapter 5 and dealing with the internal wars between the faction of Menelaus and the faction of Jason.
And it's not too much longer after this does the Maccabees come in.
Maccabees is right around the door. But the hero can't come until the villains run their course.
Yeah.
The problem is, another reason why things have to get so extreme is because there's nobody else standing up for what's right in the nation. And the ones who do stand up for what's right get killed or get bogus charges on. That makes sense? All right. And so with that, we're going to sit back here and send our prayers up and shut it down. Any questions? All right. Amajim Wapanya Yerushalayim.
Stand and face Jerusalem.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh, shut. Watch your foot. Get a little bit. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shai.
In the name of Yahweh Shai.
Please listen to us right now.
Please listen to us right now.
Send Michael. And the righteous angels. To watch over. Bless. Heal. Protect. And make strong. The people of Yasharallah. Also send unto us. Much wisdom. Much knowledge. Much understanding. And much patience. Much faith. Much brotherhood. And much love. Spiritual power. And forgive all of our sins. Yahweh Shai come quickly. For in thee is our hope. Always. And forever. Amen. Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Nothing an hour. Hatawara.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Nothing an hour. A war.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us light to see.
Barakatah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai.
Ha'awa'ah. Nothing in our. Ha'ayah. Kwara. La Kwara. Ha'ayin.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the ram's horn to call the people.
Barakatah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai.
Ha'awa'ah. Nothing in our. Sheman. Zayat. La Mashak. Yasharallah.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the olive oil to anoint Israel.
Psalms 92. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
And to sing praise unto thy name.
And to sing praise unto thy name.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
And thy faithfulness every night.
And thy faithfulness every night.
Upon an instrument of 10 strings.
Upon an instrument of 10 strings.
And upon the psaltery.
And upon the psaltery.
Upon the harp.
Upon the harp.
With the solemn sound.
With the solemn sound.
For thou, Yahweh, hast made me glad through thy work.
Has made me glad through thy work.
I will triumph in the works of thy hand.
In the works of thy hand.
O Yahweh, how great are thy works.
How great are thy works.
And thy thoughts are very deep.
And thy thoughts are very deep.
A brutish man knoweth not.
A brutish man knoweth not.
Neither doth the fool understand this.
Neither doth the fool understand this.
When the wicked spring is the grass.
When the wicked spring is the grass.
And when all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
And when all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
It is that they should be destroyed forever.
It is that they should be destroyed forever.
But thou, Yahweh, art most high forevermore.
Art most high forevermore.
To loathe thy enemies.
To loathe thy enemies.
O Yahweh, to loathe thy enemies. Shall perish.
Shall perish.
All the workers of iniquity.
All the workers of iniquity.
Shall be scattered.
Shall be scattered.
But my horn shalt thou exalt.
But my horn shalt thou exalt.
Like the horn of a unicorn.
Like the horn of a unicorn.
I should be anointed with fresh oil.
I should be anointed with fresh oil.
Mine eye also shall see.
My eye also shall see.
My desire.
My desire.
On my enemies.
On mine enemies.
And my ears shall hear.
And my ears shall hear.
My desire.
My desire.
Of the wicked.
Of the wicked.
That rise up against me.
That rise up against me.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree.
He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
They shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
Those that be planted in the house of the Lord.
Those that be planted in the house of the Lord.
Shall flourish in the courts of our power.
Shall flourish in the courts of our power.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall be fat and flourishing.
They shall be fat and flourishing.
To show that the Lord is upright.
To show that the Lord is upright.
He is my rock.
He is my rock.
And there is no unrighteousness in him.
And there is no unrighteousness in him.
By Hashem Yahushai.
By Hashem Yahushai.
Psalms 133. Shayar. Ama'awa. La Duwad. Hana. Ma. Tawab. Wama. Na'ayam. Shabbat. Akim. Gam. Yachad. Kashaman. Hatawab. Ayo. Hara'ash. Yerad. Ayo. Hazakwan. Zakwan. Aharad. Shayarad. Ayo. Payah. Manawath Katal. Karamwan, Shayarad, Ayo, Aroya, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Tazawah, Yahweh, Habaraka, Kayayim, Harwalam, Bashem Yahushua.
Psalms 133 in English. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life evermore. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Yahweh.
B'Hashem.
Yahushai.
Rachanawa.
Rashwalim. Rabiath. Sapaya. Turn. Yahweh. B'Hashem. Yahushai. Rachanawa. Rashwalim. Rabiath. Sapaya. Turn. Yahweh. B'Hashem. Yahushai. Rachanawa. Rashwalim. Rabiath. Sapaya. Turn. Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahushai, Rachanawa, Rashwalim, Rabiath, Sapaya. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahushai, all knowledge, all wisdom, all understanding, all mercy, all patience, all power from Yahweh, all power from Yahweh, all power from Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahushai, the water, Amiyat, Aman. So look.
Saluting out in the heavenly order, Yahweh, Shai, Bakoy, Allah, men of Israel, Majah, Barak,
Yahweh Shem Yahshua Baratam.
Kom Yashala,
Kom Yashala.
Kom Yashala,
Kom Yashala.
Kom Yashala,
Kom Yashala.
Dajmatat, Turn Face Sisters,
Good job.
Maramam Shabbat. Saluting out in the daughters of Zion, men of Israel, Majah, Barak,
Yahweh Shema Alatam by Shem Yahshua. Yashmatah. Dismissed. Fall out.
Great job. All right. Israel, Tawad for tuning in. See y'all on Monday.